Chapter 1326. Lu Juning stayed in the general's mansion and had no intention of coming back. Lu Yuanfan did not ask her to come back. He was busy finding himself a wife. Lu Yuanfan found that he had too few children. His only son, Lu Jinghui, had died of smallpox. Things happened one after another. There must be someone behind Lu Yuanfan. Lu Juning was the target. Concubine Lu was worried about Lu Yuanfan's second wife. She kept saying to Ning Shu, "I don't know what kind of person Madam is. It's okay. As long as she doesn't do anything out of line, it's okay. Besides, someone is more anxious and worried than you." Concubine Yun had been managing the backyard. If Lu Yuanfan had a wife, it would not be her turn to manage the backyard. But her daughter is Princess Chen. The new madam will definitely give her face. "I'm just afraid that she will attack me," Concubine Lu said. Ning Shu said with a smile, "It's okay. The new madam is new here. She won't be in a hurry to do anything. Besides, you have always been honest. The new madam has no reason to attack you and increase her enemies." Concubine Lu was still uneasy. She patted her chest with her hand and said, "I'm still worried." Concubine Lu looked at Ning Shu and said, "I'm not afraid of anything else. I'm just afraid that the new madam will do something to your marriage." "Why would she do something for no reason? I'm just a daughter of a concubine. She can prepare a dowry and marry me. It will be good for her son in the future. Don't be so pessimistic." Ning Shu comforted her and said, "Besides, isn't it still early? After the sun went down, he would still get up tomorrow morning. He was single, so he would still be happy tomorrow." Concubine Lu relaxed and touched Ning Shu's head. "I just hope that you can be safe and sound in the future. Don't worry. I'll take care of you in the future." Lu Yuanfan was quite fast. Soon there was news that his second wife was the daughter of the Minister of the Ministry of Rights. In fact, the Minister of the Ministry of Rights was not as powerful as the General's mansion. The Ministry of Rights was usually responsible for some national festivals and the reception of envoys from other countries. But Lu Yuanfan was already middle-aged, and so many things had happened in the Lu family recently. His reputation was not good. To be able to marry a virgin was already good enough. Moreover, the other party was the daughter of the first wife. In fact, she was the daughter of a concubine. Later on, she was promoted to the daughter of the first wife and was raised under the name of the matriarch, becoming the daughter of the first wife. Lu Yuanfan now wanted to find a political partner. Even if it was not a partner, at least there would be someone who could support him. Otherwise, there would be no one to speak up for him. The wedding date was set, and the date was set in a hurry. In any case, recently, the Lu family had been holding wedding ceremonies one after another. The great general's residence was very dissatisfied with Lu Yuanfan's remarriage. When Lu Yuanfan got married, Lu Juning didn't even come back. He expressed his dissatisfaction in this way. Ning Shu had been feasting on fish and meat recently. Every once in a while, he would eat a wedding banquet, which made Ning Shu a little reluctant to eat. In fact, the recent events had almost emptied out the Lu family. Dowry, betrothal gifts, and so on. The Lu family was probably going to have to tighten their belts. On the morning of the second day of the wedding, the concubines and daughters of the family had to pay their respects to the bride. The new madam was quite easy to talk to. She even gave Ning Shu a big red packet. Ning Shu accepted it with a smile. There was money to be received. The new madam also didn't mention anything about the authority of the housekeeper. She let concubine Yun temporarily manage it. Ning Shu looked at the new madam. He felt that this woman was not a good person. She used both the carrot and the stick. She was very magnanimous when doing things, but when she wanted to make things difficult for people, it was also very choking. However, what should be done was done. Ning Shu also didn't think of going over to challenge her dignity and status. He would live his life how he should live his life. There was no hatred between people for no reason. Even if she didn't like the other person, she wouldn't go so far as to kill the other person. At most, she would make things difficult for the other person. However, in the face of benefits, these were insignificant. After leaving the courtyard, concubine Lu let out a long sigh of relief. It seems that madam is quite easy to talk to. Ning Shu made an "n" sound and looked at Lu Juning's courtyard. Lu Juning still hadn't come back. It was clear that she was unhappy with the new madam. It was clear that she didn't welcome her. However, concubine Yun's expression didn't look too good either. After all, she was about to lose her authority as the housekeeper. There was already a mistress in the house. It was impossible to let a concubine manage the house. Even if the new madam didn't want her authority as the housekeeper, Lu Yuanfan would still hand it over to her. Ning Shu returned to the courtyard. He opened the book, dipped the tip of the pen in ink, and wrote some herbal knowledge on it. If she learned something, she would at least know how to defend herself when she was harmed by others in the future. She didn't want to be harmed by some despicable things again. In fact, the more despicable things were, the more useful they were. She didn't know when this mission would be considered completed. She didn't marry Li Yu, and she didn't have her virginity sullied and sent to the family temple. It was almost completed. At present, Lu Yuanfan's crisis could be considered resolved. The book was gone, but she didn't know if Lu Yuanfan had any other political stains. She felt that Lu Juning wouldn't let it go so easily. They were both reborn. Lu Juning wanted to take revenge on everyone. She wanted to make these people pay the price. As for Arves, he could find a remote planet and live a peaceful life. If Lu Juning had lived on planet Selder, she would not have been so sad. Survival was a problem, so how could she be sad? She was used to living a life of luxury, but she was too idle. The more idle she was, the more pretentious she became. No matter who it was, they had to pay the price for survival. Ordinary people had to live with their backs to the earth and the sky. Even aristocrats had to work hard to maintain the current situation. Lu Juning's actions had even caused her loyal dog to lose her husband. The main reason was that Lu Juning couldn't accept betrayal. Gradually, it led to the current situation. Lu Juning didn't make up her mind. She said that she only wanted revenge in this life and didn't want a man. Now that she met a man, she was conflicted about the past. She didn't please either side. With a proper wife in the backyard, Ning Shu still had to go to the main courtyard to greet her every morning. Other times, Ning Shu rarely went out. If he wasn't embroidering in the house, he was writing prescriptions. He didn't care about anything else. Lu Juning stayed in the general's mansion and didn't come back. He didn't know how long she would stay. To be honest, Lu Juning wasn't really a member of the general's mansion. It wasn't good for her to stay there all the time. Although the whole family treated her well, she was far away. If she stayed there all the time, the elders wouldn't say anything, but the wives and sisters-in-law of the general's mansion would gossip. It wasn't like she didn't have a home. The new wife told Lu Yuanfan to pick up her second daughter. She couldn't stay in someone else's house all the time. She was a girl. How could it be convenient if there were men in other people's houses? Lu Yuanfan frowned at the mention of Lu Juning, but he still went to the general's mansion to pick up his daughter. In the end, he came back with a cold face and said that he wouldn't have such a daughter in the future. Chapter 1327. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders, feeling that Lu Juning was a bit willful. She had lived 2 lives, yet she still didn't know when to stop. Did she think that after living in fear in her previous life, she could do whatever she wanted in this life? Lu Yuanfan didn't go to the general's mansion. Lu Juning could stay as long as she wanted, he couldn't be bothered. The new wife was just doing her duty. Since the other party didn't want to come back, she wouldn't force Lu Yuanfan to bring Lu Juning back. Wasn't it better if there wasn't a legitimate daughter in the family to suppress her? The second wife couldn't raise her head in front of the first wife's daughter. Ning Shu was waiting for 2333 to tell him to leave this world. The mission in this world should be about done. The current crisis was solved, but Lu Yueyun would have to rely on herself in the future. He just didn't know how Lu Yueyun felt when she came back and found that she had become Lu Yujing. Ning Shu wiped his face. Ning Shu thought that her mission was completed, but the soldiers suddenly surrounded the Lu mansion. It was tightly surrounded. Lu Yuanfan was also called to the palace. Ning Shu frowned. Was the Lu family's crisis still not over? Concubine Lu was very anxious, her face full of fear. If something happened to Lu Yuanfan, what would she do? What would the whole family do? It's okay. Ning Shu comforted concubine Lu. The book had been destroyed by Ning Shu. Was there any other evidence? Some things couldn't be stopped. Lu Yuanfan went to the palace, there was no news. The Lu mansion was surrounded like an iron bucket, even the servants couldn't go out. An atmosphere of panic enveloped the entire Lu mansion, making it hard to breathe. Lu Yuanfan's fate determined the fate of everyone in the mansion. If something happened to Lu Yuanfan, none of them could escape. This matter must have something to do with Lu Juning. Really, what good would it do her to destroy the Lu family? If the Lu family was destroyed, where could she go? Could it be the general's mansion? Now that the loyal dog had a family, he couldn't give Lu Juning unparalleled love. Ning Shu looked at concubine Lu's flustered expression and said, "Concubine Lu, it's okay. Don't worry. Go to sleep. Once you wake up, everything will be fine," Ning Shu said. Concubine Lu rubbed her forehead. "How can I sleep? Trust me, it'll be fine." Ning Shu was very calm, very calm. After leaving concubine Lu's courtyard, Ning Shu lifted her skirt and dashed towards her own courtyard. "Miss, wait for this servant." Yuan Xiang called out to Ning Shu from behind. Miss was really as quiet as a virgin, but as active as a mad rabbit. Ning Shu returned to his courtyard and brought some medicinal powder with him for self-defense. He said to Yuan Xiang, who was panting from running, "I want to eat something light. I'm going out for a walk." "Miss, where are you going this time?" Yuan Xiang leaned against the wall and panted. "Don't follow me. I'm just strolling around the garden." As Ning Shu walked, she looked around to see if there was anything wrong. Even if Lu Yuanfan really did something, she had to ensure that Lu Manor was clean and that there was nothing strange. Ning Shu arrived at Lu Yuanfan's study. This study had just been renovated. There was also a smell. Ning Shu looked around. Seeing that there was no one, she slipped into Lu Yuanfan's study. Ning Shu looked around to see if there was anything like a dragon robe. Or something like an imperial jade seal that clearly had the intention of rebellion. Ning Shu didn't dare to be careless. If Lu Yuanfan really couldn't escape this disaster, it would be difficult for her to take concubine Lu and charge out alone. When a tree fell, those who relied on the tree to survive would also be destroyed. Ning Shu fumbled around in the study to see if there were any hidden mechanisms or secret rooms. She even lifted up the floor tiles behind the door, but this time she didn't put anything. She didn't find anything unusual in the study. Ning Shu's eyes wandered around, looking for a suitable place to put something. Ancestral Hall. Ning Shu planned to go to the Ancestral Hall to take a look. The door of the Ancestral Hall was locked with a lock. Ning Shu managed to pry open the window with great difficulty and climbed in through the window. There were memorial tablets of the Lu family's ancestors in the Ancestral Hall. Ning Shu clasped her hands together and began to look around. She even jumped up to the roof beam to check. In the end, she found a package under the incense table covered with cloth. She opened the package. It was an imperial jade seal and a dragon robe. Ning Shu, it was so obvious that it was for a search. How should she deal with this? Now that Lu Manor was surrounded, she was afraid that there would be orders to search the manor in a while. This Imperial Jade Seal, TSK, when Ning Shu passed by the pond, she threw the Imperial Jade Seal into the water with a splash. She would come back to pick it up when she had time. As for the dragon robe, the embroidery was really good. Ning Shu hugged the dragon robe and quickly returned to her room. She stuffed the dragon robe under the blanket. "Miss, the cook made some light porridge. Do you want to eat some?" Yuan Xiang asked. "Okay." Ning Shu finished the porridge in a few mouthfuls and said, "I want to sleep for a while. Don't wake me up if there's nothing." Yuan Xiang nodded and closed the door. Ning Shu hurriedly took out the dragon robe. What should she do with this thing? Burn it? Once it's burned, there will be smoke. Kitchen, go to the kitchen to burn it. Ning Shu cut the dragon robe into pieces with a pair of scissors and put away the pearls on it. The dragon robe was so honest, there were no lack of gold thread pearls. She wrapped it in a package. Ning Shu put on a cloak and hid the package in the cloak before going to the kitchen. There were many people busy in the kitchen. Ning Shu walked to the stove. "Miss, why are you here? The kitchen is very dirty," the cook said. Concubine Lu's heart is palpitating. "I'll make a bowl of lotus seed soup for her. I'll do it myself. You guys do your thing. I'll do it myself." Ning Shu squatted in front of the stove and stuffed a handful of firewood into it. The cook was a little worried. Ning Shu said, "It's okay." When no one was paying attention, Ning Shu stuffed the package into the stove and kept poking at it with a pair of tongs. It was just a pity that these golden threads were all made of gold. Ning Shu squatted by the stove and watched the flames burn the clothes. The clothes were slowly burned to ashes. Only when the clothes were completely burned to ashes did Ning Shu breathe a sigh of relief. When the lotus seed porridge was ready, Ning Shu scooped a bowl of lotus seed porridge and left the kitchen. Ning Shu brought the lotus seed porridge to Concubine Lu. Concubine Lu kept walking around the room, looking very impatient. "Eat something." Ning Shu put down the lotus seed porridge. Concubine Lu said anxiously, "I don't know how your father is. My heart is in a mess. I can't calm down." Ning Shu said calmly, "It's okay. Eat something. Father will be fine." After leaving Concubine Lu's courtyard, Ning Shu walked around to see if there was anything strange. He was afraid that the other party had made other preparations. Chapter 1328. As Ning Shu wandered around, he ran into the new madam. Seeing Ning Shu, the new madam said, "Stay in your own courtyard. Don't go anywhere. Don't cause trouble." Ning Shu immediately bowed and said yes. He saw that the new madam's brow was filled with worry. She had just married in and something like this had already happened. Ning Shu obediently turned and left. He didn't know what was going on in the palace. They were probably going to convict Lu Yuanfan of rebellion. He didn't know who had complained. It was most likely someone from the general's residence. How long would this mutual harm last? Ning Shu had just returned to his room when the new madam's servant girl called Ning Shu to the front hall. Not only did Ning Shu go, but all the concubines had gone as well. A man in armor said coldly, "His Majesty has ordered us to search the entire Lu residence. All of you stay here and are not allowed to go out." "May I ask what the Lu family has done?" the madam asked. The man ignored her and ordered his subordinates, "Don't miss a single place." Ning Shu held Concubine Lu's hand. Concubine Lu's hand was cold and trembling. Her face was pale and there was an indescribable panic in her expression. Concubine Lu was a woman born in a small place. After becoming a concubine, she basically didn't go out. It was normal for her to have such a reaction. She was born to depend on Lu Yuanfan. She was more worried than anyone that something had happened to him. The guards rummaged through the Lu residence. They broke all the porcelain and took away some valuable trinkets. In a short while, the Lu residence was in chaos. The room was quiet, and every minute felt unbearable. Ning Shu held concubine Lu's hand tightly and leaned against her from behind. He didn't want concubine Lu to fall to the ground. "Sir Lieutenant, we didn't find anything suspicious." A guard walked in, bowed and cupped his hands. The captain frowned. "Have you searched carefully? You can't miss a single place." "We've searched everywhere," the guard said. The captain glanced at the people in the room. He walked out of the front hall and said to the guard, "Did they go to the ancestral hall?" "Yes, he went to the ancestral hall first." "We've searched everywhere, but we didn't find anything." "Lieutenant, what should we do now?" The lieutenant gritted his teeth. "Keep looking. But the palace is still waiting for our reply." "Yes, but it's too late now." The embroidered dragon robe wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. Even more so, they couldn't be careless. "Search again. Search for another hour," the lieutenant said. Ning Shu saw that the search would not be over for a while, so he asked concubine Lu, who was standing, to quickly sit down. The efficiency was too low. Ning Shu leisurely drank a few cups of tea, but did not find anything. Only then did he let the people in the palace report back to the emperor. In the main hall, Lu Yuanfan was kneeling on the ground. Lu Juning was also there. Lu Yuanfan's forehead was covered in cold sweat, which dripped onto the smooth black tiles. He looked at Lu Juning from the corner of his eyes filled with hatred. This daughter of his had colluded with the people from the great general's manor to accuse him of embezzling the army's provisions and hoarding weapons to rebel. They even found a witness to prove that he was buying and selling official titles. Lu Yuanfan was a little afraid that his book would appear in the main hall. Cold sweat flowed into his eyes, making them stinging. Lu Yuanfan didn't dare to wipe them away. The emperor, who was sitting on the throne, looked at him with eyes like steel knives. Lu Yuanfan didn't know if he could get out of the main hall today. If he could get out, who would want such a daughter? "Emperor," the lieutenant searched the entire Lu mansion. "Speak." The emperor's voice was very calm, but it made Lu Yuanfan sweat all over. He was so nervous that his muscles couldn't help but twitch. "Emperor, we found a big box of silver in the Lu mansion." Lu Yuanfan sighed heavily. Lu Juning's expression changed. "Other than silver, there was nothing else?" "No." Lu Juning's expression became a little ugly. Silver was not a problem at all. Only rebellion could make the emperor nervous. Lu Juning's grandfather, the general, shook his head at Lu Juning. This matter couldn't be repeated. Lu Juning's expression was very unwilling. How could it be like this? How could they not find anything? Lu Yuanfan was also a sensible person. He immediately kowtowed and admitted his mistake. He cried bitterly and said that he knew he was wrong and was willing to accept any punishment. He was as pitiful as he could be. He said that he shouldn't have been blinded by money and be blinded by lard. He was ashamed of the emperor's favor and blah blah blah. In the end, Lu Yuanfan was demoted from a second-rank minister of war to a fourth-rank chancellor of the imperial college. The silver that was found naturally went into the national treasury and his salary was deducted for 3 years. It was equivalent to 3 years of work in vain. At the same time, he was grounded for half a year and had to reflect on his mistakes. Lu Yuanfan hurriedly kowtowed and admitted his mistake. It was good enough that he could keep his life. Although he didn't know the process, Lu Yuanfan could guess that there was something taboo in the Lu mansion, but he didn't know why it wasn't found. It was probably his daughter's bad idea. Lu Yuanfan moved his body. His back was full of cold sweat, soaking his underwear. His body was weak, his hands and feet were trembling. He walked in front of the gates of hell. Lu Yuanfan looked at Lu Juning and the old general fiercely. Lu Juning's face was a bit pale. In fact, this time she had already shown her true colors, but she couldn't do anything to Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan clutched his chest and sat on the sedan chair. His heart ached because he was scared. Lu Yuanfan was really scared to the point of peeing. After Lu Yuanfan came back, the guards at the door also left. Ning Shu saw Lu Yuanfan's purple forehead and sighed in relief. At least his head didn't move. A group of people surrounded Lu Yuanfan and cared about him. In the end, Lu Yuanfan's eyes rolled and he fainted. The new madam hurriedly called a doctor. Ning Shu felt that Lu Yuanfan was just scared. It would be better if he woke up. "Auntie, let's go back and wait. There are too many people here. We don't want to make trouble," Ning Shu said to concubine Lu, who stretched her neck like a swan. Concubine Lu saw that it was a mess and left reluctantly. Then Lu Juning also returned to the Lu mansion. Lu Juning's face was cold. Ning Shu bowed. "Second sister. Is father okay?" Lu Juning asked. Ning Shu said indifferently, "He's okay. He's probably tired and is sleeping now." "Second sister, why did you come back?" Ning Shu asked. Lu Juning, "I just came back to get something." Ning Shu was a bit surprised. "Then why are you still leaving?" Lu Juning went directly to her courtyard, packed some things and left. She didn't even say goodbye to the new madam and Lu Yuanfan. Ning Shu, she left just like that. Lu Juning probably didn't dare to face Lu Yuanfan. Ning Shu felt that this was quite good. If he wasn't under the same roof as Lu Juning, it wouldn't be so easy for him to play any tricks. Chapter 1329. Moreover, would Lu Yuanfan give up after such a huge setback? It all depended on Lu Yuanfan's attitude when he woke up. Lu Yuanfan slept for an entire day before waking up. When he woke up and sat on the bed, he was in a daze. Everyone in the family was shocked. They were afraid that Lu Yuanfan couldn't take the blow. Lu Yuanfan asked his wife to bring the genealogy and went straight to the clan to cross out the name of his second daughter, Lu Juning. In ancient times, a rebellion would implicate the entire family. The clan agreed without thinking and directly expelled Lu Juning from the Lu family. In other words, Lu Juning was no longer Lu Yuanfan's daughter. Lu Yuanfan felt that since you treated me as your father, you wanted to destroy the Lu family. Rebellion was not breakfast. People would die and their heads would be chopped off. Lu Yuanfan directly cut off the father-daughter relationship with his daughter Lu Juning. Lu Juning could go wherever she wanted. He couldn't be bothered whether she lived or died. He also didn't want to have anything to do with the great general's residence. He remembered this matter. If anything happened to the great general in the future, he would be the first to rush up and step on him. Lu Yuanfan did all these things calmly. He didn't look angry at all. He was probably too disappointed and felt that there was nothing to be angry about. He didn't want such a deceitful daughter. Ning Shu admired Lu Yuanfan's efficiency. He was very direct and efficient. His daughter didn't want him and he didn't want her. Ning Shu also felt more at ease. Lu Yuanfan was vigilant and wouldn't be so easily schemed against. Other than the Lu family, Lu Juning could only go to the great general's residence. However, Lu Juning didn't even have a name now. Lu Juning's name was no longer her name. Even if she used this name, she was no longer a member of the Lu family. In the past, there was still a loyal male dog. Now, the great general's residence was where Lu Juning lived peacefully. However, after this incident, the Lu family and the great general's residence were on opposite sides. The two families went from being connected by marriage to enemies. Ning Shu didn't think that Lu Juning could have a good life in the great general's residence. Someone who could even deal with her own father, the great general's residence, would definitely be on guard against her. It was impossible for her to return to the Lu family. She couldn't even enter the Lu family's door. Lu Yuanfan was demoted and grounded. He didn't get a salary for 3 years. The imperial edict had been issued. It was obviously not a good thing, but Lu Yuanfan still had to place the imperial edict in the ancestral hall. It would be shameful if the later generations saw this. It was not a great achievement, but a fine. Lu Yuanfan's heart was indescribably complicated. However, after that, it was rumored that Lu Juning had lost her virginity. It was rumored that she and Prince Chen, Chen, had been intimate when they were in Tiantai Temple. Lu Yuanfan wanted to disgust the great general's mansion by keeping a girl who had lost her virginity in their home. This is the granddaughter of your great general's residence, shameless, blah, blah. In any case, Lu Juning was no longer the daughter of the Lu family. She wouldn't lose face for the Lu family. Ning Shu was speechless. Lu Yuanfan was really vengeful. When the news that Lu Juning had lost her virginity to Prince Chen spread out, the people of the general's mansion wanted to marry Lu Juning to Prince Chen. Of course, Lu Juning was unwilling. Lu Mingxian was still in Prince Chen's mansion. She didn't want to be suppressed by Lu Mingxian. The general's mansion intended to give her to Chen Yichen as a concubine, but she had her own pride and couldn't face Chen Yichen in that situation. The people of the general's mansion had no choice. Since she didn't want to be a concubine, she had to be the wife. The general's mansion arranged a marriage for Lu Juning, but the husband's family was far away from the capital city, and that family didn't know about the loss of her virginity. She wanted to marry far away. Lu Juning was very angry and sad that the people of the general's mansion treated her like this and arranged a marriage for her without her permission. If she married to another province, how could she take revenge on the third Prince Shenhao and Lu Mingxian? But on the day of the wedding, Lu Juning was almost forced into the bridal sedan chair. The general's mansion also sent a group of soldiers to follow Lu Juning to prevent her from escaping. Lu Juning, who was sitting in the bridal sedan chair, couldn't figure out why things had turned out like this. Why did her grandparents, who had been so good to her, treat her like this? She got married so inexplicably, and so far away. Even if the family was a local noble, Lu Juning didn't want to marry. She couldn't be reconciled without taking revenge. Then what was the point of her rebirth? Shenhao, the man who killed his wife and son, was still alive and kicking, enjoying glory and wealth, and competing for the throne. Lu Juning couldn't accept it. When Lu Juning got married, Ning Shu even stood on the side of the street to send her off. Some things were either white or black. The general's mansion was such a big family, with a son and an unmarried daughter. Lu Juning's influence in the general's mansion wasn't very good. Moreover, the husband the general's mansion chose for Lu Juning was quite good. He was a local noble, far away from the emperor, and his life would definitely be good. He just didn't know if Lu Juning could get over the hurdle in her heart. If it was always like this, Lu Juning's life after marrying over wouldn't be too good. If she still insisted on taking revenge, she would definitely end up with nothing. How a person's life was, didn't depend on others, but also their own attitude towards life. In any case, Lu Juning had already married far away. If there weren't any special circumstances, they probably wouldn't meet again in this lifetime. Ning Shu let out a long sigh of relief. In his previous life, Lu Juning and Chen Yichen only envied mandarin ducks and not immortals, but now the couple had fallen apart. Feelings were very fragile, and could only be maintained carefully. The slightest carelessness could cause it to break. Ding, quest completed. Do you wish to leave the quest world? 2333's voice sounded. Ning Shu nodded, leave. Unfortunately, he didn't encounter the world's origin in this world. But wandering around such a small place, how could he encounter the world's origin? Ning Shu's head was dizzy for a moment, and he returned to the system space. Ning Shu lay on the sofa, opened the attribute panel, and looked at the harvest this time. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 points, 72 million soul, 340 health, 131 wisdom, 394 charm, 50 luck, 259 spiritual power, 290 faith, 24515 force, 422 aptitude, 169 merit, 13,870 plus 3,000 skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate fighting technique, exceptional martial arts, intermediate poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skills, beginner ghost catching skills. Honorary titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor items, Calm Aura, Calming Pill, Faith Aura, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet plus 2 Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for a Lifetime, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Zhu Susu's Blessing, Founding Female General, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Lawful Beauty, Chen Ning's Blessing, Transcending Race Communication, Bai Sanyang's Blessing, Wisdom, Bai Sanyang's Blessing. Chapter 1330. Complete Lu Yuan's mission, don't be set up, don't marry the eldest son of the Marquis. Mission completion rate, 100%. Mission reward, 8 million points, 80 attribute points, 2,000 faith power. Ning Shu looked at the reward. It was not bad. 8 million points, 80 attribute points, and 2,000 faith power were accumulated in the previous world. After all, merit was not so easy to obtain. Moreover, what merit could be obtained from scheming in a house? It was a pity that women could not leave the house. If these women were in the modern world, they would definitely live a bright and beautiful life. They wore fashionable clothes and had beautiful makeup. When they turned around, they were full of beauty and confidence. Ning Shu distributed the attribute points. This time there were more attribute points. Ning Shu very willfully added all the attribute points. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 points, 72 million plus 8,000,000 soul, 340 plus 10 HP, 131 plus 10 wisdom, 394 plus 10 charm, 50 plus 10 luck, 259 plus 10 spirit, 290 plus 10 faith, 24,515 plus 2,000 martial strength, 422 plus 10 aptitude, 169 plus 10 merit, 13,870 plus 3,000 skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate combat technique, exceptional martial arts proficiency, intermediate poison technique, elementary business management knowledge, elementary code programming, elementary lawyer skills, elementary ghost catching skill. Honorary titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor items, Calm Aura, Tranquil Pill, Faith Aura, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet plus 2 Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Model Worker, Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing, Lifelong Friend, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Zhu Susu's Blessing, Founding Female General, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Lawful Beauty, Chen Ning's Blessing, Transcending Race Communication, Bai Sanyang's Blessing. Ning Shu closed the attribute panel. He sat cross-legged on the sofa and began to cultivate. He absorbed the pure soul energy in the space. After he finished cultivating, Ning Shu asked, I feel that the soul power this time is much stronger than last time. Is it the soul power of those mission enforcers who were killed? I think so. But it's probably just your imagination. Although the soul power of intermediate and advanced mission takers is strong, it's basically nothing to you, 2333 said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Are we clearing out intermediate and advanced mission enforcers this time? They're even willing to part with high-level mission enforcers. Ning Shu was a little surprised. To be able to become a high-level mission enforcer, he must have experienced many worlds. How could he just erase him like that? How could he bear to do that? We've also killed a few high-ranked mission enforcers, but most of them were middle-ranked mission enforcers. 2333 said, fortunately, we are fine this time. Otherwise, you would have become pure soul energy. Ning Shu, motherfucker, did he think that everything would be fine just because he had the amulet? How could such a thing happen? The feeling of having his life in someone else's hands was really terrible. He had to build the world as soon as possible, but he still lacked a few world sources. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. She had to work harder. The world was full of competition. He had to strive to control his own destiny as soon as possible. He had already reached this step. If he continued to climb forward, he would succeed. Ning Shu hugged his head and screamed twice. He jumped twice with all his might. He jumped high on the sofa and instantly felt much better. 2333 Crazy old woman, Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the sofa and clicked on the screen to see Lu Yuan's situation after she returned. Lu Yuan was a typical ancient person. Her days after returning didn't change much. She embroidered every day, waiting to get married and have children. Occasionally, she would study the medical books that Ning Shu had left behind. Her days were peaceful. Ning Shu swiped his finger and the screen turned to another place. In the screen was Lu Juning. Lu Juning was in a room, looking tired and unwilling. And her husband was with his concubine. Lu Juning didn't care. She hadn't even married Chen. How could she be interested in such a man, especially one with multiple wives? Lu Juning only hated that she couldn't cut Shen Hao into pieces. Her face was gloomy all day. Also, Lu Juning's husband found out that Lu Juning wasn't a virgin on the wedding night. He was unhappy and turned around to find his concubine. Lu Juning's expression was cold. Her hands were clenched tightly. Ning Shu couldn't help but wipe his face. How much did she feel? She was already so miserable in her previous life. She still had to make herself miserable in this life. She was the most miserable and wronged person in the world. No one understood her pain. There were many people who had a hard life. He should have thrown Lu Juning to planet Seder. Ning Shu turned off the screen. With Lu Juning's personality and her deep hatred, it was all thanks to Chen that she could live a happy life. Ning Shu pulled out a book from the bookshelf and started reading. He thought of something and asked 2333, the screening this time is over. When will the next screening be? Ning Shu wanted to know if he had enough time to find the origin of the world. If she was erased, her soul would be scattered, and she wouldn't even have an afterlife. That's not clear. Maybe decades, centuries, or even millennia are possible. This screening is a warning to those who are still alive that they must work hard to complete the mission, 2333 said. Once the mission fails too many times and repeatedly hurts the plane, the higher-ups may fire some people. The rules for firing are different every time. Ning Shu was so scared that the book in his arms fell to the ground. Damn, how could he live? Ning Shu's face was expressionless. Why are those people so stubborn? Since it's to protect the plane, of course, everything is based on the plane. Those who are weak can only be erased. It's not a charity that gives you so much care and love, 2333 said. Ning Shu was speechless. Since she couldn't change the rules with her current ability, she could only adapt to the rules. When she transcended the rules, these rules would no longer be able to do anything to her. At that time, she must stand at the top of the Forbidden City and laugh to the sky. Who else but her? But that day was a little far away. Ning Shu felt his blood boil just thinking about it, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. She was fated to die young, became a mission enforcer, and finally became the master of the world. Just thinking about it made her feel great. She walked to the peak of life and married a tall, rich, and handsome man. Forget about tall, rich, and handsome men, they were not as good as her. But if they were better than her, damn, no one would be allowed to control her. Ning Shu stood on the sofa, standing on one leg and practicing spiritual power. Practicing spiritual power was a very tiring thing. Ning Shu persisted for a while and felt exhausted and dizzy. Ning Shu lay on the sofa and rested for a while before he felt better. The use of spiritual power was very difficult. Ning Shu rested for a while and continued to practice. She added so many attribute points to spiritual power. She couldn't waste it like this. Chapter 1331. Ning Shu practiced her spiritual power over and over again. It took a long time for her to stop. After the practice, Ning Shu exchanged for fasting pills, water, and some medicine from the system space. Ning Shu said, "Let's go and do the mission." She had almost 100 million points and a lot of faith power. She would become a super mission taker soon. At least she would be able to enjoy some benefits. Come on. Do you want to enter the mission now? 2333 asked. Ning Shu opened her arms and prepared to land in the most beautiful position. She nodded and said, yes. Then her head became dizzy and she forgot about the beautiful position. Her soul merged into her body. She felt a dull pain in her arm, as if a needle and thread had pierced her flesh. Ning Shu took a breath and quickly opened her eyes. She saw a white ceiling and a strong smell of disinfectant. She turned her head and saw a man in a white coat threading a needle on her arm. Wake up. Don't move. Last 2 needles, the man said. He was wearing a mask. Ning Shu lay still. The doctor said, don't let the wound come into contact with water. Don't eat seafood. Why are you so careless? I told you not to go out, but you insisted. Now you're in trouble. The doctor put the scissors on the plate and made a crisp sound. Ning Shu was speechless. These words sounded familiar. Was it someone she knew? The doctor took off his mask. Ning Shu saw his face. He was a handsome man. His facial features were handsome and he had a good figure. When he wore a white coat, he looked very handsome. At this moment, his expression was very dissatisfied. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't speak, he said, "Did you hear what I said?" Ning Shu nodded. "I heard. I'll go back with you." The doctor took off his white coat and hung it on the shelf. He was wearing a very elegant sweater and a casual jacket. Seeing that Ning Shu was still sitting on the bed, he said, "You can go." Oh, Ning Shu quickly got out of bed and followed the doctor. This was a rather large clinic. After they left the clinic, Lin Menya was shocked. The doctor reached out and held Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu almost reflexively shook off his hand. "What are you doing? In the future, tell me in advance where you are going. If something like this happens again, I will be very unhappy," the doctor said. Ning Shu was a little confused now. He nodded and said, The doctor opened the door to his car, and Ning Shu got in as well. Ning Shu took a look at the car. It wasn't cheap either. The doctor started the car. Ning Shu said, "I'll take a nap." Ning Shu closed his eyes and began to accept the plot. The original owner was called Ai Yun. She was now married. The man driving next to her was her husband. His name was Cheng Fei. He ran a clinic. He could be considered a successful person. Most importantly, he was a good man. He didn't have any bad habits. He was ambitious and humble. He was a top student since he was young. After graduation, he opened his own clinic. His medical skills were good, and he met Ai Yun through a blind date. After they got married, Cheng Fei treated Ai Yun very well. He didn't need Ai Yun to do anything for him. His family was well-to-do, so he didn't let Ai Yun go to work. He let Ai Yun do what she liked. No matter where Ai Yun went, Cheng Fei would send her there. AI Yun's friends and classmates were very envious of AI Yun. They said that AI Yun was lucky to be able to find a considerate and handsome man who could make money and take care of her beauty. Then, the winner in life, AI Yun died. She didn't even know where she died. AI Yun suspected that her husband killed her. Her suspicion wasn't without reason. She felt that her husband wanted to kill her. Although he was considerate and loving to her, her husband wanted to kill her. Cheng Fei even took AI Yun to see a neurologist. He said that she was a little paranoid. In short, she was a little paranoid. AI Yun told her parents that Cheng Fei wanted to kill her, but her parents didn't believe her. They even said that AI Yun was talking nonsense. No one believed AI Yun's words. Because Cheng Fei was a good man. He was filial to his parents and could make money. He was a very good man. Many women envied AI Yun behind her back. But AI Yun didn't know why, but she was under a lot of psychological pressure. When she faced her husband, Cheng Fei, she couldn't help but get angry. However, Cheng Fei was very gentle and tolerant of her. But the more Cheng Fei was like this, the more anxious AI Yun became. In an accident, AI Yun's parents were in a car accident and both of them died. It was just an ordinary accident. AI Yun felt that Cheng Fei had killed her parents. No matter how she investigated, it was just an ordinary traffic accident. No matter how AI Yun threw a tantrum, Cheng Fei stayed by her side. In the end, AI Yun also died. AI Yun became a spirit body. She didn't even know how she died or where she died. Perhaps she really had a mental disorder and died when she was hallucinating. In her impression, the surroundings were dark and she couldn't see anything. AI Yun, we're here. Cheng Fei gently pushed Ning Shu and unbuckled his seatbelt. At the same time, he unbuckled his seatbelt for Ning Shu. Ning Shu was originally accepting the plot when he was suddenly interrupted by Cheng Fei. Ning Shu stared at Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei stretched out his white hand and touched his face. Is there something on my face? Ning Shu smiled. No, it's just that many girls liked you before you got married because you're handsome. Cheng Fei smiled faintly. Are you trying to bring up old scores? No. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders and got out of the car. Cheng Fei also got out of the car and walked beside Ning Shu. They got into the elevator together. Ning Shu looked at the changing numbers of the elevator and thought about this mission. Did the original owner really have a mental disorder or was there really something wrong with her husband? He didn't know AI Yun's wish and was suddenly interrupted by Cheng Fei. With a ding, the elevator door opened. Cheng Fei held Ning Shu's hand and walked out of the elevator. Cheng Fei took out the key to open the door. Ning Shu looked at him from the side. Cheng Fei was very handsome and tall. He had been an outstanding person since he was young. Moreover, he didn't have the flaws of other men. But the original owner suspected that Cheng Fei wanted to kill her. She even thought that her parents were killed by Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei opened the door and Ning Shu walked in. The decoration of the house was very good. It wasn't easy to have such a house in this area. Take a seat first. I'll cook. Cheng Fei said to Ning Shu. He put on an apron and went to the kitchen to cook. The original owner was a housewife and didn't have a job. She was supposed to do this kind of thing. But most of the time, the food was cooked by Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei had to run his clinic every day and take care of AI Yun when he came back. It seemed like he was taking care of a patient. Ning Shu raised his arm and looked at the stitches. The wound was quite long. According to the plot, AI Yun was injured at a class reunion. But for some reason, two of her classmates started fighting. Chapter 1332. He didn't know what grudges these two students had, but they were fighting fiercely. Wine bottles, bowls, and chopsticks were all over the floor. Ai Yun was pushed to the floor. Her arm was scratched, but luckily her face wasn't hurt or her eyes were pierced. Ning Shu touched the wound. It was a little hot, but it was sewn carefully. There were some bloodstains on his clothes. He started to accept the plot again. He wanted to see what the original owner's mission was. But there was no more plot. He was interrupted and the plot wasn't transmitted to him. Ning Shu said coldly, 2333, what's the original owner's wish? If there's no wish, what's the point? Oh, her wish. It means that her husband wants to kill her. Ning Shu was speechless. Be serious. This is the original owner's wish. She thought her husband wanted to kill her, so he killed her parents to control her. Ning Shu smiled, really? Really? If you want to accept the plot in the future, find a suitable time and a safe place. If I can't tell you, you will be forced to accept the plot and you won't be able to receive the complete plot. 2333 said. Is there still a plot for this mission? Tell me the plot. Ning Shu said. No. 2333 said. Are you kidding me? The client doesn't even know how she died. She thinks she was killed by her husband. 2333 said. You have received all the plot. Ning Shu was speechless. The plot was so simple, but it was so deceptive. Ning Shu looked at Cheng Fei in the kitchen through the glass. He was cooking seriously. He was tall, handsome, and had a good figure. He couldn't figure out why he wanted to kill Ai Yun. There was no need. Could it be that the original owner was paranoid and had a persecutory delusion? If she was crazy, how could she complete her mission? If it wasn't for the black hole, she could meet the client in advance. Many things could only be explained face to face. After receiving the plot, even Ning Shu couldn't help but feel that Ai Yun had a problem. Why would someone kill you? Why would they kill your parents? Crime requires a cost. Ning Shu scratched his head. He felt a little distressed. Cheng Fei came out with the dishes. Seeing Ning Shu who was sitting on the sofa, he put down his legs and came over to squat in front of Ning Shu. Are you scared? Cheng Fei was very close to her. Ning Shu could even see his long eyelashes and the reflection of her face in his eyes. It was a pale face. Ning Shu shook his head. I'm fine. Cheng Fei stood up. It's time to eat. Ning Shu walked to the dining table and Cheng Fei pulled out a chair for Ning Shu. Ning Shu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. So polite. The client and Cheng Fei had been married for more than 2 years. People who had lived together for a period of time would still behave like this. Cheng Fei was a man who could not be picky. Normally, a man would not pull a chair for his wife, not to mention whether he would behave like a big boss. This kind of thing usually happened before marriage. Ning Shu smiled and sat down. Thank you. Cheng Fei sat opposite Ning Shu and put some vegetables in Ning Shu's bowl. During this period, you have to eat lighter food. Don't eat spicy food and don't eat seafood. Ning Shu nodded and lowered his head to eat. You have to take a shower later. I will help you to wash your wound. Cheng Fei said. Pfft. Ning Shu spat out his rice. Cough, cough, cough. Cheng Fei stood up and passed a tissue to Ning Shu. What's wrong? Ning Shu wiped his mouth with the tissue. I ate too quickly and choked. You have to chew and swallow slowly when you eat. Let your body prepare for the meal. Cheng Fei sat down and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu's face was reflected in his eyes. Ning Shu nodded and continued eating. The dining table was very quiet. Only the sound of bowls and chopsticks could be heard. This was what it meant to be speechless. It was a little awkward. Cheng Fei took a sip of water and said, "Why did you have a conflict at the class reunion?" Ning Shu spread his hands. I don't know. I don't know why it happened. Cheng Fei put down the cup. Don't go to class reunions in the future and don't go out with your best friends. It's dangerous outside. Ning Shu frowned. Why did he not let him go out? Of course. I am not forbidding you from going out. You have to be careful. Cheng Fei said. Ning Shu nodded obediently. I know. Cheng Fei smiled and showed his white teeth. It made him look even more handsome. Sigh. This was a world where looks were everything. He did not believe that Cheng Fei wanted to kill his wife. Ning Shu had his reservations. After dinner, Cheng Fei cleared the table and washed the dishes. Ning Shu saw that Cheng Fei was busy in the kitchen. He leaned against the door and asked, Cheng Fei, I think there is something wrong with my head. What do you think? Cheng Fei wiped the water off the bowls and put them in the cupboard. When he heard Ning Shu's words, he nodded without thinking. Yes, there is something wrong with my head. I went to a class reunion and hurt myself. Your 2 male classmates are afraid of paying the medical bills. They are shirking their responsibilities. How ridiculous. Don't go to a class reunion that wastes time and energy. Cheng Fei said. Ning Shu spread his hands. I am going to show off that I found a good husband. Cheng Fei looked up at Ning Shu and could not help laughing. What are you showing off for? Cheng Fei wiped the water off his hands and took off his apron. Take a bath. Your hand is injured. It is not convenient. Ning Shu took 2 steps back. I can take a bath myself. I will soak in the bathtub. Don't be stubborn. Your wound can't get wet. Cheng Fei said good-naturedly. Ning Shu shook his head. I can take a bath myself. We need to keep each other mysterious. Cheng Fei just tilted his head and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu went into the bathroom, locked the door and turned on the water. Ning Shu wiped the mirror and looked at the person in the mirror. Ai Yun's facial features were not exquisite, but she was very elegant. Her skin was fair and she could be considered a beauty. She was supported by her temperament. Ai Yun's parents were university professors. She was also from a scholarly family. Otherwise, she would not have gone on a blind date with Cheng Fei. They were well matched. Ning Shu was still looking at himself in the mirror when someone knocked on the door. His heart skipped a beat. Open the door. You didn't bring any underwear. Cheng Fei's voice came from outside the door. Ning Shu opened the door and saw that Cheng Fei was holding underwear and pajamas. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu took the clothes and was about to close the door. Cheng Fei stopped him and asked, Can you do it alone? Yes, of course. Ning Shu closed the door. Ning Shu took off his clothes and lay in the bathtub. He looked at his arm outside the bathtub. There was a long scar on his arm. The wound was red and throbbing in pain. Ning Shu took a quick bath, dried himself and put on his clothes. Cheng Fei was reading on the sofa when he came out of the bathroom. Seeing Ning Shu come out, he put down the book in his hand. Since you are done, I will take a bath. Cheng Fei stood up and took his clothes to the bathroom. Chapter 1333. Ning Shu sat on the bed, crossed her legs, supported her chin, and listened to the sound of running water in the bathroom. So far, she didn't find anything wrong. The couple treated each other with respect. For the time being, Ning Shu did not find anything wrong with Cheng Fei. He was a woman's dream man. He had a stable career, was rich, handsome, and considerate. Ning Shu couldn't figure out why the client thought her husband killed her and her parents. Ning Shu couldn't figure it out and didn't want to think about it anymore. She started to cultivate. Weak Reiki entered Ning Shu's body. Cheng Fei wiped her hair and came out of the bathroom. Seeing Ning Shu sitting on the bed, she couldn't help laughing. What are you doing? Ning Shu opened his eyes. Meditation, meditation before sleeping. Cheng Fei was only wearing a pair of shorts. Her upper body was naked, revealing her strong body. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at Cheng Fei's two little breasts coldly. You're going to sleep like this? Ning Shu asked, showing the wound on his arm. I'm injured now. Cheng Fei lay down. The mattress bounced and he pulled Ning Shu to sleep. Cheng Fei pressed Ning Shu's head against her chest and patted Ning Shu's back. Go to sleep. Ning Shu stared at Cheng Fei's breasts expressionlessly. He wanted to pinch them off, just like pinching a succulent. Ning Shu wanted to turn around, but Cheng Fei pressed his head so he couldn't move it. Why aren't you sleeping? Cheng Fei's voice sounded a little lazy. Sleep your head off and get high. I want to change my position. It's not comfortable like this. Ning Shu said. Cheng Fei let go of her hand on Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu lay down flat. Cheng Fei looked at Ning Shu. The strands of hair in front of his forehead made him look more adorable than usual when he was neatly combed. Don't go to any gatherings in the future. If you have nothing to do, you can learn how to arrange flowers. All your friends do is buy, and learn something useful. Cheng Fei said in a low, muffled voice. His voice sounded like it came from his nasal cavity. It was indescribably deep and sexy. Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, I want to work. Cheng Fei opened his eyes and stared at Ning Shu. I don't agree with you going to work. There are some things in the workplace that you can't handle. You should live a peaceful life. You don't need to work. Ning Shu was speechless. What was that supposed to mean? Secluded orchid in an empty valley? He must be praising her beauty. Ning Shu said, You're also very handsome. Cheng Fei patted Ning Shu. Go to sleep. Ning Shu turned his back to Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei was very nice to the original owner. As for working, it was a matter of opinion. Ning Shu didn't sleep much that night. He cultivated silently. As long as he had the ability, he wouldn't be afraid of anything. Cheng Fei slept quietly. He didn't snore or fart. He didn't even turn around. If a person was pretending, he wouldn't be able to do it after he fell asleep. The next morning, Cheng Fei woke up very early. He woke up very softly and pulled the blanket for Ning Shu before he left. Ning Shu opened his eyes and looked at the door. Then he closed his eyes and went back to sleep. After he woke up, Ning Shu walked out of the room. He saw breakfast on the table. There were sandwiches, milk, and a fried egg. There was also a note from Cheng Fei saying that he went to the clinic. If the milk and fried egg were cold, he could put them in the microwave. Ning Shu picked up the milk. It was a little warm. Ning Shu sat down and ate the breakfast. Then he washed the dishes. What should he do next? Being a housewife was quite boring. There were hourly workers to clean the house. Looking at Cheng Fei's attitude, it seemed like he was going to cripple Ai Yun. Ever since they got married, Cheng Fei had been treating Ai Yun like this for 2 years. Persistence was the hardest. Did Cheng Fei really love Ai Yun? But Ai Yun felt that her husband had killed her and her parents. Ning Shu thought for a while. Then he packed up and prepared to go back to his parents' house. The original owner's parents lived in a university house. The house was big enough. Ning Shu walked on the campus towards his parents' house. When he passed by the basketball court, a ball flew towards him. Ning Shu tilted his head and dodged it. How could he be hit by the ball? Ha ha ha, a boy in a jersey ran to Ning Shu. He scratched the back of his head and asked, Are you okay? Were you hit by the ball? There was a commotion around him. Ning Shu shook her head. Nope. Next time, be more careful. Don't hit a girl's head for no reason. Have you tried hitting your own head to see how it feels? Boy, everyone, this development was a little strange. Ning Shu expressed that she had seen all kinds of tricks. But this body was quite charming. Even after getting married, there was still a student throwing a ball. It should be said that Ai Yun's temperament was unique. Sorry. The boy went to pick up the ball. Ning Shu carried his bag and went to his parents' house. Ai Yun's parents died in a car accident. Both of them died in vain. After that, Ai Yun also died. She died in a very confused manner. She didn't know how she died or where she died. Every action had a meaning behind it. Was it revenge, love, money, or sex? Ning Shu felt that Ai Yun had set her sights on Ching Fei first. He felt that he had limited her train of thought. Everything had a reason, right? Why did Ching Fei want to kill Ai Yun and her parents? Ning Shu pressed the doorbell. It was Ai Yun's mother who opened the door. When she saw her daughter, she immediately said happily, "Why are you back?" Ning Shu entered the house and put down the fruits and supplements on the coffee table. "I came back to see you. Where's Dad?" Ai Yun's mother said, "Your dad has classes. Are you having lunch here?" Ning Shu nodded. "Yes. How are things with my son-in-law?" Ai Yun's mother asked. Ning Shu nodded. "Pretty good. Everything is pretty good. Don't worry. I'm not worried about my son-in-law. I'm worried about you. Ching Fei is a good man. It's not easy for a woman to meet a good man in her life, especially for a child like Ching Fei." Ai Yun's mother prepared a fruit platter and placed it in front of Ning Shu. "Ning Shu, do I look that unreliable?" Ning Shu couldn't help but ask. "You even wanted a divorce a while ago. What were you thinking? Why did you have to give such a good man to someone else?" Ai Yun's mother said resentfully. "Then why did I want a divorce last time?" Ning Shu asked. "Because you had a nightmare that your son-in-law wanted to kill you. You insisted on a divorce." "Ning Shu, do you believe it?" Ning Shu asked. Ai Yun's mother rolled her eyes. "What do you mean? Ching Fei would never do such a thing. Your brain must be rusty." Ning Shu chatted with Ai Yun's mother. Ai Yun's mother kept praising Ning Shu and told him not to do anything stupid. Chapter 1334. Ning Shu listened to Mrs. Ai's nagging. She was telling Ning Shu not to court death and not to make a fuss about a divorce. If he kept making a fuss, all their feelings would be gone. Ning Shu ate some fruit and listened to Mrs. Ai praising Ching Fei. Ching Fei was so good. It was as if she was the only one making a fuss. Since they were so good, why did he have to make a fuss about a divorce? A good man should stay by himself. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the sofa and started to cultivate. He turned a deaf ear to Mrs. Ai's nagging. It was the same words over and over again. Professor Ai came back from class and saw Ning Shu sitting on the sofa. He asked, "Why did you come back this time?" Ning Shu was speechless. "Nothing. I just came back to see you guys." Ning Shu shrugged. How worried was he about her? Compared to Ching Fei, she was the typical example of a troublemaker. The kind that made people very worried. Professor Ai was wearing a modern Tang suit and had a literary aura. He glanced at Ning Shu and said, "A man's patience is limited. You are just too free all day, that's why you keep making a fuss. I will use my connections to make you a tutor in the school. Although you will not be a professor, at least you will have a job so that you won't keep making a fuss with Ching Fei," Professor Ai said. Ning Shu was speechless. It felt like Ching Fei was their biological son. How miserable. Ning Shu thought about it and nodded. "Okay. When do I start work?" "Next Monday." Go back and discuss with Ching Fei. If you want to go, I will get someone to reserve a position for you, Professor AI said. Seeing that Ning Shu was obedient, Professor AI did not say anything harsh. He said in a gentler tone, if you don't understand anything in school, just ask more questions. Thank you, Dad. I got it, Ning Shu said with a smile. Mrs. AI had finished preparing lunch when the doorbell rang. Ning Shu went to open the door. It was Ching Fei. Ning Shu said in surprise, why are you here? She didn't call Ching Fei to tell him that she was here, so why was he here? Ching Fei carried the things into the house and greeted the old couple sweetly. Seeing Ching Fei, the old couple both smiled brightly. He didn't want to see her sad face and couldn't bear to look at her. Was she that bad? Ching Fei, let's have lunch here, Mrs. AI said with a smile. Ching Fei sat beside Ning Shu and nodded. Sure. I've always missed Mom's cooking. Mom's cooking is the best. Mrs. AI was delighted by Ching Fei's compliment. Ning Shu just watched in silence. Why are you here? I didn't tell you that I went home. Ning Shu asked. Ching Fei smiled. No matter where you are, I can find you. Were these words of love? I didn't see you at home when I got home, so I guessed you were here, Ching Fei said. Ning Shu curled his lips and said, you should have called me. If I wasn't here, you would have come for nothing. You must be here. I can feel it. Ning Shu, be normal. When it was time for lunch, Ching Fei peeled the prawns and put the meat in Ning Shu's bowl. Ning Shu looked at the prawns in his bowl and put a piece of braised pork in Ching Fei's bowl. He smiled and said, this is your favorite. Ching Fei just looked at Ning Shu lovingly. Thank you. Ning Shu, Mrs. AI smiled when she saw this. Ching Fei, your mother-in-law and I only have one daughter. It's inevitable that we spoil her. You have to be more tolerant. If she does anything wrong, tell us and we will teach her a lesson, Professor AI said to Ching Fei. Ching Fei put down his chopsticks and smiled gently. It's okay, Dad. I think AI Yun is a good person. She is my daughter. I know her character. If she makes a fuss in the future, just ignore her. Professor AI glared at Ning Shu and said. Ning Shu, he was her biological father. Ching Fei nodded and said with a smile, I know, Dad. If she makes a fuss in the future, I will ignore her. After lunch, Mrs. AI urged Ning Shu and Ching Fei to leave as soon as possible. She told Ching Fei to go back to work and not waste time. Ning Shu and Ching Fei walked out of the house and watched the students running on the basketball court. Ching Fei said, time flies. I felt like I was in university not long ago. Yeah. He did not feel anything at all. The two of them walked unhurriedly on the path in the woods. Ning Shu said, Dad found me a job as a tutor at this school. I will start next Monday. Ching Fei stopped and looked at Ning Shu. Do you want to work? Ning Shu turned to look at him. I am just asking for your opinion. Anyway, I will be in school and can take care of Mom and Dad. Do you want to work? Ching Fei looked at the students running on the basketball court. They were young and energetic. Ning Shu nodded. Of course I want to work. I stay at home every day and am very bored. I can also earn money to support the family. I can't let you earn money alone. Ching Fei's job was not easy. If there was an emergency call in the middle of the night, Ching Fei would have to go to the clinic. Ching Fei shook his head and said gently, I don't agree with you working in school. There will be a lot of people and things will get complicated. You won't be able to handle it. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at him. Then what do you think I should do? What kind of job is suitable for me? Ching Fei said, my clinic's income is enough for us to live. Life is not about money. If there is a good way of life, why should we suffer for money? I don't want you to suffer. Ning Shu nodded. You are right. Then you will reject Dad, right? Ching Fei reached out and placed his hand on Ning Shu's head. Be good and listen to me. No, I need to think about it. Ning Shu stared at Ching Fei. Ching Fei could not help but smile. Naughty. Ning Shu observed that Ching Fei's expression was very natural. I will send you back. Ching Fei opened the door for Ning Shu. Ning Shu sat in the car and watched Ching Fei walk around the front of the car and get in. He sat beside her. There was a smell of disinfectant on his body. It was light and not pungent. Ching Fei started the car and turned the steering wheel with his slender and fair hands. Ning Shu stared at him. Was it really this man who killed Ai Yun? Ching Fei was really good to Ai Yun and he always cared about the details. He had done everything he could for Ai Yun. Why are you looking at me? Ching Fei asked. Do you think I am very handsome? Yes, you are very handsome. I was thinking about how I married such a handsome man. It is unbelievable. Ning Shu said. So, you have to cherish me. Ching Fei said half jokingly and half seriously. Ning Shu just smiled and did not say anything. Ching Fei sent Ning Shu home and said to Ning Shu again, I hope you can reject the job Dad found for you. Chapter 1335. Ching Fei was very gentlemanly. He did not force Ning Shu, but he expressed his opinion. Ning Shu nodded. I know. I will think about it. Ching Fei placed his palm on the back of Ning Shu's head and pressed Ning Shu against his heart. Ai Yun, I want to give you the best. I hope that you can live a carefree life. You don't have to sink into the dirty swamp of the human world for money. Ning Shu, buried in my chest whenever you don't like it. Ching Fei's chest vibrated when he spoke. His voice seemed to vibrate from his chest. It was indescribably charming. He was a very charming man. He had a good personality. He seemed to be a man with no flaws. Ching Fei let go of Ning Shu and kissed her forehead. I am going to the clinic. Be careful at home. Ning Shu nodded and waved at Ching Fei with a smile. After Ching Fei left, the smile on Ning Shu's face disappeared. She turned and walked into the neighborhood. Ning Shu looked around the house when she reached home. She took out the vacuum cleaner and started cleaning the house. She cleaned every corner of the house. Even the bathroom was cleaned. Ning Shu wanted to see if there were any surveillance cameras in the house. It was hard to find surveillance cameras with needle holes. Then, Ning Shu felt uncomfortable all over. She found a surveillance camera in the bathroom. Ning Shu did not find it in the living room. She felt that it should be on the chandelier. The chandelier was high. Ning Shu could not reach it. If there was a bathroom, there must be one in the living room too. Ning Shu, why did he install it in the bathroom? Would Ching Fei be able to see it when she was showering? There were probably cameras and surveillance cameras everywhere in the house. Ning Shu started to think. Did she do anything out of line in this world that would arouse suspicion? Why did he install surveillance cameras in the house? Ching Fei did it to monitor her. Then why did Ching Fei want to monitor her? Ning Shu took a small knife and put it on her body. She carried the garbage bag and went out. Ning Shu threw away the trash and rolled up his sleeves. The wound on his arm was red. When she went to her parents' house, Ching Fei came straight to her. He did not call her or her parents. He came straight to her house. Ning Shu touched the wound and pressed on it. With this press, the wound hurt a lot. Ning Shu suspected that there was some kind of tracker sewn inside. As long as the tracker was on her, no matter where she went, Ching Fei would know. If there was really something wrong, then Ching Fei's desire to control was a little scary. Ning Shu looked at the suture and observed what was special about Ching Fei's suture. Every doctor's suture technique was different. After observing for a while, Ning Shu took the knife and pointed it at the wound. Should he cut it? If there was really a tracker inside, what should he do with it? Ning Shu looked at the wound and slowly drew a line. The line could not be cut in one go. It was really painful to pull it back and forth. Ning Shu was in so much pain that he gritted his teeth. Finally, he removed the line. The wound was red and swollen because of Ning Shu. Ning Shu opened the wound to see if there was anything inside. In the end, he found a small thing in the wound. This thing was very small and looked like a chip. It was the size of half a fingernail. Ning Shu looked at this thing and kept it. He went to the pharmacy to buy needles, suture lines, and anti-inflammatory medicine. Ning Shu recalled Ching Fei's suture and carefully sutured the wound. Thanks to the needlework in his previous world, Ning Shu held the needle and thread and tried his best to follow Ching Fei's suture style. Then, he threw the needle in the trash can and applied the medicine on it. Then, he slowly went home. When he returned home, Ning Shu felt a lot of eyes staring at him. Ai Yun should have felt it. Actually, she could feel it when someone was watching her. Especially when Ai Yun was always alone at home. This feeling would be even stronger. Just thinking about the handsome Ching Fei in front of the computer and watching her every move made her hair stand on end. Then this perfect husband was actually a peeping Tom. His wife would not go so far as to peep at him. Then he just wanted to know what his wife was doing all the time. He definitely wanted to know what his wife was doing. He was very controlling. Ning Shu kept the chip close to his body. When he returned home, he turned on the TV. She sat cross-legged on the sofa as if she was watching TV. Ning Shu was cultivating while staring at the TV with empty eyes. I'll let you watch. I'm so beautiful. How dare you peep at me? After cultivating for a while, Ning Shu went to the fridge to look for food. Ning Shu opened the fridge and rummaged through the fridge. He saw that there was a needle hole in the fridge. Ning Shu pretended that he did not see it. He took the noodles in front of the needle hole and closed the fridge door. Even the fridge was installed. Why didn't he install it in the toilet? Look at what I shit today. He was simply crazy. Ning Shu went to the kitchen to cook the noodles. Her eyes were looking left and right. She wanted to know where there was no needle hole in the house. There was no blind spot in all directions. This perfect husband in the eyes of others was actually very scary. Ning Shu sat on the chair and ate the noodles. He was thinking if he should wait until Ching Fei came back at night and beat the shit out of him. Ai Yun was dead. Was Ching Fei the one who killed her? Ching Fei was very controlling. Could it be that the original owner did something unbearable and out of his control, so he killed her? As Ning Shu ate, all sorts of thoughts flashed through her mind. Ning Shu finished the bowl of noodles. He decided not to change his expression and observe the situation later. At night, when Ching Fei came back, he brought a bouquet of fresh lilies and placed it in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu took the bouquet. Thank you. It's very beautiful. Ching Fei lifted Ning Shu's sleeve and looked at Ning Shu's wound. He asked, "What's on it?" "The inflammation is too serious and it's very painful. I went to the nearest pharmacy to buy some anti-inflammatory medicine," Ning Shu said. A foreign object sewn in the wound was very difficult to heal. "Why didn't you call me when your wound was hurting? I got you some anti-inflammatory medicine," Ching Fei said gently. Ning Shu nodded. Ning Shu put the flowers in a vase and placed it in the middle of the table. It was very beautiful. Ching Fei saw this. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Let's eat steak today." Ching Fei took the things to the kitchen to fry the steak. Soon, the steak was done. Cheng Fei was very good at cooking. The steak looked like it was from a high-end restaurant. It was also very beautiful. Cheng Fei was a man who knew how to enjoy life. He was also very sentimental. Cheng Fei cut his own steak and placed it in front of Ning Shu. He took the one in front of Ning Shu. "Let's eat." Cheng Fei said gently to Ning Shu. Cutting the steak was easy. Ning Shu only needed to use a fork and she could eat it. Cheng Fei also cut a plate. How considerate of him. Chapter 1336. Ning Shu was not hungry as he had eaten noodles before. Therefore, when the steak was served, he ate very slowly. Cheng Fei smiled. "Ai Yun, you know what? I like it when you are quiet now. It gives me a feeling of peace and quiet." Ning Shu laughed and put down his fork. He said to Cheng Fei, "I want to work in school." Cheng Fei frowned and put down his fork and knife. He wiped his mouth and looked at Ning Shu. "Have you really thought about it? You know what I think. I don't agree with you going to work. You are not suitable for work." Ning Shu tilted his head. "I haven't even tried. How do you know that I am not suitable for work? Anyway, you can't go wrong listening to me," Cheng Fei said. Ning Shu was annoyed. "Can't I work? You're treating me like a baby." "I don't treat you like a baby. I treat you like my wife. I don't want you to suffer." Cheng Fei comforted Ning Shu. "Well, let's not talk about this now." Ning Shu insisted, "I will go to work on Monday. I plan to tell Dad later. As for whether it works or not, I will know after I try. If it doesn't work, I will come back. You can't let me try, right?" Cheng Fei rubbed his eyebrows and looked worried. "Ai Yun, don't be stubborn. You should not go to work. You are really not suitable for work." "Why am I not suitable for work?" Ning Shu stared at Cheng Fei. "You have to give me a reason. You have a simple personality and are not suitable for complicated work. Moreover, I can earn money, so you can relax. When you have nothing to do, you can go out and play with your best friends. Ai Yun, I want you to be happy." Ning Shu didn't know what to say. She didn't have to earn money to support the family and lived a relaxed life. This was something that many people yearned for. Ning Shu picked up the steak on the plate with his fork. The atmosphere became heavy. Cheng Fei sighed. "Ai Yun, everything I do is for your good." "Thank you," Ning Shu said lightly. Cheng Fei wanted to say something but stopped. In the end, he didn't say anything. "Take the anti-inflammatory medicine." Cheng Fei took the pills and water. Ning Shu took the medicine and smelled it. "Why does it smell so bad?" Cheng Fei said helplessly, "Medicine isn't candy. It won't be sweet and fragrant." Ning Shu put the medicine in his mouth and swallowed it with water. When it was time to sleep, Cheng Fei patted Ning Shu's back. "Go to sleep. I'll talk to Dad about your work." "Cheng Fei, why won't you let me face society?" Ning Shu asked. "Because it's not suitable." "You're not suitable." It was this sentence again. Ning Shu's ears were about to turn calluses. What did she mean by suitable? What did she mean by unsuitable? At this moment, there were countless pinholes in the room. Even the sleeping scene was captured. He was speechless. The next morning, Cheng Fei woke up early as usual and went to the clinic after making breakfast. He left a note for Ning Shu. Cheng Fei's handwriting was beautiful and precise. Ning Shu ate breakfast and planned to go back to his mother's house. The first thing he said when he saw his mother was, "Mom, I want a divorce." Mother AI looked at Ning Shu expressionlessly. "Why are you here again?" "Mom, I'm serious." Ning Shu was speechless. "Why this time? Don't tell me you had a nightmare again." Mother AI said anxiously. Can you not be so noisy all day? Can you live a peaceful life? Mom, I'm just kidding. Ning Shu shrugged. It was obvious that his parents wouldn't agree. Then I'll go back. Ning Shu turned and left. He still had to hide this from them. When the time came, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Mrs. AI patted Ning Shu's back. Her hand was a little heavy as she pointed at Ning Shu. Wretched girl, if you dare to do this again, your father and I will teach you a lesson. Don't talk about divorce so easily. Don't make Ching Fei fly away. Ning Shu pursed her lips. Those who know are my parents. Those who don't know would think that I'm your daughter-in-law. Why are you treating me like this? If I had a daughter-in-law like you, I would kick you out of the house. Mother AI said angrily. Am I that bad? Ning Shu touched her face and asked. Anyway, parents always thought that other people's children were good children. Ning Shu planned to divorce Ching Fei. He had to divorce. No matter what, he couldn't die like the original owner. And Ning Shu wanted to test Ching Fei. AI Yun, don't cause any trouble. If not, I'll skin you alive. Mother AI threatened Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. Yes, yes. I won't cause any trouble. Don't worry. Ning Shu left the school and went home. He started to pack his things in front of the camera. Then he put the box in the living room. Then he sat on the sofa and stared blankly at the TV. He started to cultivate. He already had Qi Jin in his body. He could easily defeat Ching Fei. When Ching Fei came home and saw the box in the living room, he was shocked. Ning Shu, you already knew. Why are you pretending? You're back early today. I have something to tell you. Ning Shu said to Ching Fei. Ching Fei sighed and sat on the sofa opposite Ning Shu. Are you going back to your parents' house? Ning Shu said, let's get a divorce. Ching Fei couldn't help but slap his forehead. AI Yun, can you stop fooling around? Ning Shu spread his hands. I'm not fooling around. I'm very calm and clear-headed. I don't think I'm good enough for you. So let's get a divorce. Ching Fei was speechless. Why are you asking for a divorce again? Did you have a nightmare again? Ning Shu, can you not talk about the nightmare? Ning Shu thought for a while and nodded. I did have a nightmare. Ching Fei, you can't divorce me because of a dream. Isn't that too hasty? Ching Fei looked like he wanted to stop fooling around. Ning Shu shook his head. It's not just because of the dream. There are other things. I don't think we're suitable to live together. I can't be a burden to you. I think it's tiring for you to live with me, Ning Shu said understandingly. Ching Fei looked at Ning Shu indifferently. As long as you don't cause any trouble, I think we'll live a happy life. Do Mom and Dad know we're getting a divorce? Ching Fei took out his phone to make a call. Obviously, he was calling the AI family. Ning Shu didn't stop him. After Ching Fei hung up, Ning Shu said, even if you call Mom and Dad, I'm getting a divorce. We have to. Ching Fei looked at Ning Shu helplessly. Did I do something wrong? Chapter 1337. Ching Fei was not angry. Instead, he asked Ning Shu if it was because he was not good enough. No, it's because you did a good job and I didn't repay you. Ning Shu said. Ching Fei looked at Ning Shu with tolerance. According to your logic, since you didn't repay me, you shouldn't divorce me. You should repay me instead of running away. I'm not running away. I just don't want to bear this burden. Ning Shu spread his hands. Can't we part on good terms? Ching Fei did not speak. The old couple from the AI family rushed over after receiving the call. The moment they entered the house, Mrs. AI hit Ning Shu's arm. What did you tell me? You said you wouldn't do it again. How long has it been? Ouch, it hurts, it hurts. Damn, the wound was hit hard. What's wrong? Mrs. AI rolled up her sleeves and saw Ning Shu's red wound. She asked, how did you get this? Ning Shu pointed at Cheng Fei. He hit me. Don't talk nonsense. Mrs. AI wanted to hit Ning Shu again, but she was worried about the wound on Ning Shu's arm. Cheng Fei is not the kind of person who will hit you. He didn't hit you. Ning Shu. What's going on? Why are you asking for a divorce again? Professor AI, who was wearing a traditional Chinese suit, said with a dark face. Can't you live a peaceful life? Professor AI looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt wronged. Don't just look at me. Look at Cheng Fei. Although I was the one who asked for a divorce, I feel wronged. Cheng Fei said calmly, Dad, don't get angry. Let's talk about it slowly. I won't divorce AI Yun. Don't worry. But I want a divorce. I don't want to live with you. Living with him is like living in jail. Ning Shu said. Cheng Fei sighed. Mrs. AI touched Ning Shu's wound. How can you say that? Ning Shu thought, oh my God, let's see how long you can last. Professor AI pointed at Ning Shu angrily. Then why don't you see what Cheng Fei did? Ning Shu pointed at the wall and the corner. There are surveillance cameras in these places. I live under Cheng Fei's nose every day. My every move is under his surveillance. There are even surveillance cameras in the bathroom. Ning Shu's expression was somewhat indignant. That's fine, but why are they even monitoring the refrigerator? It's like I'm in jail. The two elders of the AI family looked at Cheng Fei in a daze. Cheng Fei looked a little surprised. Cheng Fei sat on the sofa and rubbed his eyebrows without saying anything. Cheng Fei, what the hell is going on? Mrs. AI asked. Why are there so many surveillance cameras in the house? Cheng Fei wiped his face and said, I installed all the surveillance cameras at home because I was worried about AI Yun. Even if you're worried, you don't need so many surveillance cameras. Professor AI frowned. Everyone is an individual. If you were to monitor her like this, I would be angry too, not to mention that she is my daughter. Cheng Fei nodded. I know I was wrong. I'll remove these surveillance cameras now. Cheng Fei admitted his mistake with a good attitude. I'm just worried that something might happen to AI Yun if she's alone at home. She's already an adult. What could possibly happen to her? Even her mother and I didn't discipline her like that. Professor AI said, let's forget about this matter. Don't install any surveillance cameras at home. Ning Shu, forget it, forget it, forget it, Dad, I want a divorce. Ning Shu said firmly. Don't mess around, Professor AI scolded Ning Shu. But not only did he spy on me, he also installed a tracking device in my body. Ning Shu took out the chip. Sew this into my wound. Mrs. AI's voice was trembling. Ning Shu asked, is that true? It's true. The wound is always bad and it hurts a lot. I went to the pharmacy to remove the stitches. This thing is inside. It's fine that he spies on me at home. He knows where I go. Ning Shu's face was cold. Mr. and Mrs. AI looked at Cheng Fei unkindly. Do you have to implant a tracking device in your body? Cheng Fei sighed. He stood up and went to the bedroom. He took out the list and handed it to Professor AI. Dad, I didn't want to tell you about this. AI Yun actually has a mental disorder. She's paranoid. The doctor said that she has persecutory delusions. Cheng Fei looked helpless. What? Professor AI quickly took the list. It was the doctor's diagnosis. Professor AI looked at Ning Shu in disbelief. He asked Cheng Fei, when did this happen? Some time ago. About a year ago. That's why I don't let AI Yun go out to work. I installed these surveillance cameras at home so that I can take care of the family when I'm at the clinic. It's my fault about the tracking device. I was afraid that I would know where AI Yun went. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. Cheng Fei's eyes turned red. Mr. and Mrs. AI had not recovered from the shock of knowing that their daughter was a lunatic. Ning Shu, ha. Cheng Fei had put in a lot of effort into everything he did. He cleared his name so quickly. Cheng Fei, you're the paranoid one. What's the difference between this and stalking? You even restricted my daily activities. I'm not the paranoid one. You're the paranoid one. Ning Shu pushed Mrs. AI. Mom, say something. I'm not sick. Ning Shu felt that he was very clear now. He was very clear that she did not think that he was a lunatic. What persecutory delusions? Mrs. AI looked at her husband. Professor AI was holding the list with an ugly expression. AI Yun, I got the tracking device because you had a relapse at the class reunion and hurt your hand, Cheng Fei said. I didn't expect you to find out first. Ning Shu was expressionless. Didn't two male classmates fight? Why am I the one who had a relapse? You're the one who's sick. When you have a relapse, your memory is not very clear. I can only tell you this, Cheng Fei explained. I don't want you to feel that there's something wrong with you. Ning Shu, he really put in a lot of effort. I'm not sick. I'm really not sick. Ning Shu almost wanted to swear to God. She was a lunatic. Okay, stop arguing. Professor AI looked at Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei, thank you for all this time. We didn't know that AI Yun was sick. It's my fault. I should have told you about this, but I was afraid that you would be worried, Cheng Fei said. Cheng Fei said, I love AI Yun. No matter what AI Yun is like, I will never leave her. And I don't want her to face other people's strange gazes. Cheng Fei's expression was firm. Ning Shu wiped his tears. Damn, I'm so touched. No way. Chapter 1338. Cheng Fei acted like a good man of the century. He was deeply in love with her. He promised Professor AI, Dad, don't worry. I'll take good care of AI Yun. Ning Shu looked on coldly. Anyway, she wouldn't live with Cheng Fei anymore. If he really loved her that much, why would he sew something in her wound? Wounds were very easy to get infected. If it wasn't something in the body would reject it and cause infection. What if it was serious enough to amputate? Whether the AI family agreed to the divorce or not, she wouldn't live with Cheng Fei anymore. What if Cheng Fei drugged her when he wasn't paying attention? Cheng Fei was a doctor. It was easy to get these things. Moreover, the clinic was his. There was nothing inside that could be taken as one wished. Professor AI sighed. Cheng Fei, I know you're a good man. But if something really happens to AI Yun, you'd better get a divorce. Cheng Fei was stunned. Even Ning Shu was a little surprised. Professor AI seemed to admire Cheng Fei. Why did he suddenly allow a divorce? AI Yun's mother wanted to say something. Her lips moved but she didn't say anything. Cheng Fei frowned and asked anxiously, Why, Dad? Please don't separate me and AI Yun, okay? Professor AI took the list and stood up. He reached out and patted Cheng Fei's shoulder. I've always treated you as my son. But now that something like this has happened to AI Yun, you'd better get a divorce. I don't want my daughter to be your burden. You won't complain now. You'll complain in the future. You can take care of her for a year. What about 5 or 10 years? You'll get tired of it one day. I don't want AI Yun to have no one to rely on when I'm gone. I don't want anyone to bully her. Ning Shu, I was wrong. You're my father, I can do it. I'll take good care of AI Yun. Really, I can swear. Cheng Fei grabbed Professor AI's hand anxiously. Dad, I beg you. Can you leave AI Yun to me? I won't complain. As long as I see AI Yun, I'll feel happy. If we get a divorce, I'd rather die, Cheng Fei said sincerely. I'll only have AI Yun in this life. Ning Shu, so affectionate, so creepy. Professor AI looked at Ning Shu. This is your life. Make your choice. Cheng Fei looked at Ning Shu with pleading eyes. He looked like he was about to cry. Facing Cheng Fei's gaze, Ning Shu felt a sense of guilt. Ning Shu felt very touched. Then, he decisively rejected him. Cheng Fei, I think my father is right. I don't want you to think of me in the future. It's always a bad side. So, let's get a divorce. AI Yun, Cheng Fei shouted at Ning Shu, his voice trembling, please don't do this to me, I beg you. Ning Shu turned his eyes away from Cheng Fei's weak and painful look. He carried the suitcase and said, Dad, Mom, let's go. Mrs. AI glanced at Cheng Fei. She couldn't bear it, but she still left. The three of them entered the elevator. Cheng Fei suddenly ran out and pulled Ning Shu out of the elevator. He pulled him into his arms and hugged him tightly. AI Yun, if you're unhappy about the surveillance camera, I can change. I won't do such a thing again. This time, can you forgive me? Just once, okay? Ning Shu was in Cheng Fei's arms. His head hurt. When he heard Cheng Fei's pleading words, he was speechless. It should be a good thing for a man to be so affectionate. But AI Yun said that her husband would kill her. Cheng Fei let go of Ning Shu and looked at Ning Shu anxiously. AI Yun, don't go. I beg you. Don't leave me. Otherwise, I'll die. Ning Shu patted Cheng Fei's chest. You won't die. Then, he turned and entered the elevator. Cheng Fei watched the elevator door slowly close. Mrs. AI's heart softened. Cheng Fei seems to treat AI Yun very well. Ning Shu said, Mom, you have to look beyond the surface. If he really loves me, he won't bear to see me get hurt. Actually, this is something that can be forgiven. Mrs. AI said, it's impossible for there to be no conflicts between husband and wife. Also, he can't do anything about it. Ning Shu spread his hands. Women were full of maternal instinct. They loved to find excuses. They even found excuses to forgive. The elevator door opened. Professor AI carried the suitcase out of the elevator without saying a word. Cheng Fei stood at the entrance of the elevator, panting. The hair on his forehead was wet. Cheng Fei ran down the stairs. He was panting heavily. Ning Shu begged, AI Yun, don't go. Ning Shu was speechless. Let's both calm down. Ning Shu came out of the elevator and brushed past Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei turned around and looked at Ning Shu. I won't divorce you. Over my dead body. It didn't matter. Ning Shu got into the car. Professor AI was driving. Ning Shu saw from the rearview mirror that Cheng Fei was motionless and staring at the car. Until the car turned out of the neighborhood. Ning Shu asked Professor AI who was driving, Dad, why did you agree to divorce him? Professor AI said, you're really sick. No, I'm definitely not sick, Ning Shu said with certainty. Even drunk people say they're not drunk. It's different. Drunk people are not conscious. But I'm very conscious now. I know that I'm a normal person, Ning Shu raised his hand and said. Professor AI said, we don't seem to have any hereditary mental illness. Although the hospital's list is correct, I still have some doubts. Besides, I can't accept that he sewed something in your body. He's a doctor too. He should know what it's like to have a foreign body in your body. It'll hurt even if it's cloudy and rainy. Ning Shu smiled. Thank you, Dad. Back at home, Ning Shu felt much more comfortable. Ning Shu's mother asked, "What are you going to do in the future?" Ning Shu thought for a while and said, "I'll see. Maybe I'll divorce him. It's not easy for a woman to meet a good man in her life." Cheng Fei did go overboard this time, but it was also because he was worried about you. Ning Shu looked at Mrs. AI. Do I have to compromise because he did it in the name of love? I don't lack love, and I don't lack love like Cheng Fei's. Ning Shu turned around. Do you think I look like a crazy person now? Mrs. AI said helplessly, Daughter, I'm just asking you to think about it. I'm not forcing you to be with Cheng Fei. No one is perfect. No one doesn't make mistakes. Ning Shu shrugged and said, Yes, no one is perfect. But Cheng Fei is too perfect. Mrs. AI glanced at Ning Shu angrily. You make a fuss when he's nice to you. You make a fuss when he's not nice to you. You're so insatiable. Ning Shu. Chapter 1339. Ning Shu stayed at the school and planned to start work on Monday. Ever since she married Cheng Fei, she had not worked for a day. Cheng Fei doted on her a lot. Ning Shu paid special attention to the AI couple's situation. In the novel, they died in a car accident. Ning Shu repeatedly warned Professor AI to take good care of the car and asked him to check the car when he was free. No matter what, Ning Shu did not want Professor AI and his wife to die. He would try his best to protect them. Ever since they moved back to the school, Cheng Fei would wait downstairs almost every day. He did not go upstairs and just stared blankly upstairs. Ning Shu would sometimes go to the balcony and look at Cheng Fei. For some reason, she would get goosebumps. Cheng Fei would always stare at her with a hurt and helpless look. Ning Shu had never been in a relationship before, but she felt that Cheng Fei had brought her a great deal of trouble. She felt very annoyed. It seemed that they were very affectionate, rain or shine, but it gave her a lot of pressure. Facing this kind of Cheng Fei, Ning Shu directly ignored him. He could do whatever he wanted. Cheng Fei would send Ning Shu messages to beg for forgiveness and to express his love. Ning Shu would delete them after reading them. She did not care. Hey, I just bumped into Cheng Fei downstairs. I asked him to come up, but he did not come up. He said that he was afraid that you would be angry. Ning Shu's mother said as she walked into the house with a basket. Ning Shu shrugged and did not say anything. She sat on the sofa and did yoga. She twisted her body all over the place. Mrs. AI glanced at Ning Shu. Are you really willing to divorce him? Do you know how many girls in the school stare at him when he stands downstairs every day? Just because you are married, you are going to regret it. Ning Shu exhaled softly and stood on one leg. She said calmly, Why do you think that I am acting? Although I look like I am acting now, I am not, facts will prove that I'm right. Ning Shu changed his posture, panting heavily. Cheng Fei didn't even open his clinic after such a thing happened recently, Mrs. AI said unhappily as she picked the vegetables. She sleeps in the car every night. Doesn't your heart ache at all? Ning Shu took a deep breath. He's threatening me. Mrs. AI was speechless. You're the one with a heart as hard as iron. Go and talk to him nicely. There's nothing you can't get over, Mother AI said. I don't agree with your divorce with Cheng Fei. Let's not talk about how people will gossip about a divorced woman. Moreover, Cheng Fei is a good man. Ning Shu raised his arm and took a deep breath. Mom, I'm not sick, but Cheng Fei treated me like a patient. He even said that I'm crazy. What's going on? Mrs. AI choked and didn't know what to say. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, do you like Cheng Fei that much? Yes. If you get divorced, I will compare myself to Cheng Fei. Your father can't feel it, but you and I are both women. Ching Fei did what women want men to do. So, let's talk things out. If you really want to divorce him, I can't stop you. It's a pity that such a good son-in-law belongs to someone else. Ning Shu frowned. Ching Fei had always given people the impression that he was perfect. He was surrounded by people who liked him. Even his mother was very satisfied with this son-in-law. Ning Shu shrugged. Mom, don't be disappointed. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Mrs. AI rolled her eyes at Ning Shu. Ning Shu walked to the balcony and saw Ching Fei still standing downstairs. Ching Fei sensed Ning Shu's gaze and raised his head to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu waved. Hello. Ching Fei stared at Ning Shu and didn't say anything. You should go back. Let us have some time alone. You are making me very troubled. I will tell you when I have an answer. Ching Fei looked up at Ning Shu. Ai Yun, I want you to be by my side. Ning Shu didn't say anything. Ching Fei sighed helplessly and walked to the car. He even raised his head to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu waved his hand and Ching Fei opened the car door. He started the car and drove away. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief after Ching Fei left. Ching Fei's actions were actually putting pressure on people. For example, Mrs. AI was affected. He had already done so much and treated you so well. How could you be indifferent? It was like when you were confessing to someone and the people around you were cheering you on. Those people were just watching the show and you had to face the person you didn't like. Should you accept or reject? Ching Fei's actions were like this. He used others to criticize her. Ning Shu felt that he would never love again. During dinner, Ning Shu and Mrs. AI said, I have decided to get a divorce. Professor AI didn't say anything. Mrs. AI said, You have made up your mind to get a divorce? Ning Shu nodded. I have thought about it a lot. I have decided to get a divorce. Really? Mrs. AI didn't even have the appetite to eat. Professor AI asked Ning Shu, Why do you want to end this marriage? Is it because Ching Fei is not good enough? Ning Shu said, I just feel that they are not suitable for each other. Ching Fei is good, but I don't feel comfortable being together with him. That's up to you. You can't take back what you have spilled. Even a broken mirror has cracks. Professor AI said calmly. This is not a relationship. You can break up just like that. You are husband and wife. Have you discussed this with Ching Fei? Ning Shu nodded. I will discuss it with Ching Fei. Professor AI nodded and put down his chopsticks. He had lost his appetite. Although Professor AI respected Ning Shu's opinion, he still felt uncomfortable that his daughter was going to get a divorce. Professor AI stood up and went back into the house. Mrs. AI also lost her appetite. She started to clear the table. Mom, I haven't eaten yet. Ning Shu said. Go eat dirt. Ning Shu. The next day, Ning Shu called Ching Fei and asked him to meet at a cafe. Ning Shu did not go to Ching Fei's clinic directly. That was Ching Fei's territory. Ning Shu took the car keys and drove downstairs to the cafe. Before leaving, Mrs. AI looked at Ning Shu. She wanted to say something but stopped. Ning Shu hugged Mrs. AI. Mom, don't worry. I will be happy. Mrs. AI forced a smile. Ning Shu drove Professor AI's car to find Ching Fei. But when they reached a red light intersection, Ning Shu realized that he could not stop the car. No matter how hard he stepped on the brakes, it was useless. The pedestrian walkway was full of people. If he rushed over like this, it would be a disaster. In the end, something happened. Knowing that it was useless to step on the brakes, Ning Shu gave up and slammed the car into the guardrail. At the same time, he used the qi in his energy center to stabilize his body. With a loud bang, the front of the car hit the guardrail. The sound of metal hitting metal was very ear-piercing. Chapter 1340. The windows of the car were broken, and there were cracks all over the car. Dong Xuebing could not see what was going on outside. Ning Shu's body slammed forward, and his forehead hit the steering wheel. But because of the airbag, it was not serious. The car was wrecked, and the front of the car was beyond recognition. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead. Other than feeling a little dizzy, he was fine. If Professor AI was the one driving the car, he would have been in trouble. Soon, the police arrived, and a tow truck towed the car away. Ning Shu said, "Please check the brakes carefully. Why did they break down?" Ning Shu went to the police station to make a statement and compensate for the damages. After all, he had damaged public facilities and caused a traffic jam. Ning Shu went to the garage and asked the mechanic to check the car to see what happened to the brakes. The repairman checked it carefully and said that it was worn out. The brakes should be worn out. The brake wire was worn out. Ning Shu was puzzled. The mechanic took the brake wire, and the brake wire was old. Why did it break? How long did you drive the car for the brakes to break? Ning Shu nodded. It is really worn out. The car was damaged and could not be used anymore. Ning Shu immediately sold the scrap metal. When he has money, he will buy a new car for Professor AI. Ning Shu stuffed the brake wire into his bag. After leaving the garage, Ning Shu received a call from Ching Fei. Ching Fei asked why Ning Shu was not here yet. Did something happen? Ning Shu hailed a taxi and drove to the cafe. The car stopped in front of the cafe. Ning Shu opened the door and saw Ching Fei. Ching Fei was handsome and stood out among the crowd. Ching Fei saw Ning Shu and stood up. He waited for Ning Shu to walk over and pulled out a chair for Ning Shu. It was very gentlemanly. Ning Shu sat down and looked at Ching Fei. She asked, "Did you study abroad?" Ching Fei shook his head. "No, why are you asking about this? You look like a gentleman." "I thought you were educated abroad," Ning Shu said. "I only treat you and my family," Ching Fei said. Ning Shu was speechless. He felt that Ching Fei was an expert at flirting with girls. She could say such things anytime, anywhere. Ching Fei. Ning Shu asked, "How are Dad and Mom?" "It's pretty good," Ning Shu said with a smile. "What's wrong with your forehead? Why is it red?" Ching Fei stood up and reached out to touch Ning Shu's forehead. Ning Shu leaned back and avoided Ching Fei. Ching Fei's hand froze in the air and he looked sad. "Ai Yun, just because I made a mistake once, can't you forgive me?" Ching Fei retracted his hand and sat opposite Ning Shu. "What do I have to do for you to forgive me?" Ning Shu waved his hand. "You know that I am crazy. When I go crazy, I will even kill myself. Are you sure you want to live with me? Also, I was driving when I hit the guardrail." Ning Shu shrugged. "It was like I was possessed by a ghost." Ching Fei quickly asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Then I suddenly woke up. Ning Shu stared at Ching Fei. How could the AI family's car be so badly damaged? Professor AI lived in the school, so he usually walked to the classroom. Her mother didn't drive a car to buy groceries. It was not easy to park in the market. The car was parked in the parking lot and very few people drove it. How could the brake lines be so badly damaged? Ching Fei had driven this car before. Ning Shu suspected that Ching Fei had planned to kill Ai Yun's parents a long time ago. Maybe Ching Fei had planned it since he married Ai Yun. Ching Fei looked helpless. "Ai Yun, can we talk nicely? Don't be so weird." Ning Shu shrugged. "I am telling the truth. So, let's get a divorce." Ning Shu looked at Ching Fei. Ching Fei looked at Ning Shu gloomily. I don't want a divorce. Ning Shu couldn't help but be speechless. Even now, Ching Fei's emotions were still calm and he was trying his best to save this marriage. Ning Shu felt that Ching Fei was getting weirder and weirder. He had a good temper and deep feelings. Then let's live separately for now. Don't be in such a hurry to talk about the divorce. I don't want to divorce you. Let's think about it carefully. Ching Fei begged. This is my last concession. Ning Shu thought about it and agreed. He picked up his bag and was ready to leave. Ching Fei quickly stood up and walked to Ning Shu's side. He said, "Let me take you back." Ning Shu shook his head. It's okay. I can go back by myself. Ching Fei took out a handkerchief and was about to wipe the sweat off Ning Shu's forehead. Ning Shu quickly stepped back. Ning Shu had smelled the scent of. After a lot of acute exposure, he became excited, sleepy, vomiting, pale, slow pulse, low body temperature and irregular breathing. Actually, it was used to make people faint. Ching Fei sighed. Ai Yun, do you hate me that much? You want to divorce me just because you had a nightmare. You have a mental disorder. I am a doctor. I know that. Ching Fei raised his hand and looked at Ning Shu sadly. Don't look at me like that, okay? Do you think I can't smell anything? Do you want to cover me with a handkerchief? Is Ching Fei trying to show his true colors? You want to do something bad, but you are still so affectionate. Are you schizophrenic? Ning Shu took the handkerchief from Ching Fei's hand and wiped his sweat. Then he put the handkerchief in his bag. I will return the handkerchief to you the next time we meet. Ning Shu said. Ching Fei smiled and nodded. Okay. It seemed to be a normal handkerchief with nothing on it. Is he not afraid that I will find something on it? The taxi arrived. Ching Fei opened the door for Ning Shu. When can we meet again? We will see. Ning Shu got into the car. Ning Shu turned around and saw Ching Fei staring at the car she was in. Now she had a brake cord and a handkerchief in her bag. To some extent, Ching Fei was not as kind as he appeared to be. When a person wore a mask for a long time, the mask would become a part of their body. She felt that Ching Fei was a person who wore a mask and lived with a mask on his face. He was using it to hide something. Ning Shu kept thinking about how to deal with such a person. To be able to become an excellent doctor, it meant that Ching Fei was very smart. This kind of paranoid person with a high IQ was scary. The newspaper was not scary. What was scary was the person who had a high IQ and was good at disguising himself. Should she send him to jail? But one day, he would be released. When he was released, he would be even scarier. There would be no end to it. But if she did not deal with it, Ching Fei would not let her go. Chapter 1341. Ning Shu didn't understand Ching Fei's feelings for the original host. What did he think the original host was? If it was love, it didn't seem like love. It was more like a control and habit. If it wasn't love, he cared for Ai Yun and considered everything. Ai Yun didn't need to run around for a living and could live comfortably. But he also restricted Ai Yun's movements. Ching Fei couldn't figure out what he wanted to do. Was it love? Because of love, everything you have belongs to me. Because of love, you can't go beyond my control. Because of love, you can only rely on me and belong to me wholeheartedly. Damn, was this really love? Ning Shu thought for a while and asked the driver to take her to the hospital. Since Ching Fei said that she had a mental problem, she should go for a checkup to see if there was really a problem. The doctor first checked Ning Shu's pupils and asked some questions. In the end, the results said that she had a serious paranoia. Ning Shu, what the hell? Paranoia. The problem was that she was in this body now. How did it become paranoia? If the original host had a paranoia, Ning Shu would believe it. But it was her now. For the first time in her life, Ning Shu knew that she was crazy. Ning Shu looked at these questions and asked the doctor to do the test again. This was obviously a misdiagnosis. Maybe the original host was misdiagnosed too. Also, Ching Fei might have bribed the doctor. Everything was possible. Of course, Ning Shu didn't believe that she had a paranoia at all. She is as healthy as can be. When she did the test again, Ning Shu avoided some options when choosing the answers. The doctor did a series of tests and blood tests to test Ning Shu's cognition, emotions, behavior, and will. In the end, it was confirmed that Ning Shu didn't have a mental disorder. Ning Shu, the real psychopaths had a higher IQ than ordinary people. Using this method was completely useless. Holding the diagnosis from the hospital, Ning Shu was really afraid that he had a mental disorder. Ning Shu went home and told Professor AI, "I sold your car because it's a piece of scrap metal. I'll buy you a new one when I earn enough money." Professor AI thought she had just driven out. Why did she come back but not the car? What were they doing? Ning Shu looked around the room and asked, "Where did Mom go?" Usually, at this time, Mother AI would be at home. "I went to the supermarket with your Auntie Lu. She said that there was a discount." Professor AI was holding the newspaper. Ning Shu asked, "Are you hurt? Do you want to go to the hospital to have a look?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm fine." At this moment, the phone rang. Professor AI picked up the phone, but before he could finish listening, his hand slipped and the phone fell to the ground. His face was pale. Ning Shu quickly picked up the phone, but the other end of the line had already hung up. All he could hear was the beeping sound. Ning Shu asked, "Dad, what happened?" Professor AI's eyes were a little blank. Ning Shu shouted twice before she came back to her senses. "Your mother was kidnapped." Professor AI's face was pale. Ning Shu was stunned. Kidnapped? How could she be kidnapped? Didn't she go to the supermarket? Wasn't she with Auntie Lu? Did she fail? What did the other party ask for? Ning Shu asked. They couldn't just kidnap her like this. Wasn't that too free? For money or revenge? Let's call the police now. Ning Shu picked up the phone and was about to call the police. Professor AI immediately stopped Ning Shu and shook his head. Don't call the police. Don't call the police. The other party said that if we call the police, they will kill your mother, Professor AI said. Ding dong. Professor AI's phone rang. She quickly took out her phone and opened it. It was a video. In the video, Mother AI was tied up. She was sitting on the edge of a tall building and was about to fall. Ning Shu's heart was pounding. If he didn't pay attention, Mother AI would fall from the building. Professor AI clutched her heart. Ning Shu stared at the video. Professor AI asked, "Don't you think this place looks familiar?" The place where Mother AI was standing was very familiar. It looked a bit like the school's teaching building. Dad, Mom is in the teaching building, Ning Shu said. Professor AI quickly rushed out of the house. Ning Shu also ran out. After thinking about it, he decided to call the police. At least if he called the police, there would be an air cushion when she fell from the building. Maybe it could save her life. Ning Shu followed Professor AI to the top floor of the teaching building. Other than Mother AI, there was also a person with black stockings covering his face. Ning Shu, did he really think that he couldn't tell who it was just because he was wearing black stockings? Professor AI saw him at a glance. Li Chang, what do you want to do? Li Chang sneered. Professor AI, you found me so quickly. Today, I just want to seek justice for myself. Li Chang pointed at Ning Shu. You are not allowed to come over. If you come over again, I will push her over. Ning Shu wanted to move over slowly, but he was discovered by Li Chang. Ning Shu stopped and looked at Mother AI, who was tied up all over. If Mother AI was gently pushed now, it wouldn't take much strength for her to fall from the 6-story building. At a height of more than 10 meters, how could a body of flesh and blood be harder than the floor? Ning Shu said, I see that you are also a student of this school. What can't you figure out that you have to do such a thing to destroy your own future? You are a university student. After leaving the school, you still have a bright future. But now that you are impulsive, you will destroy your future. If there is anything, just talk it out. There is no need to do such a thing. Li Chang shouted excitedly, you are not me. How can you know my pain? All of this is your father's fault. It is his fault. Through the black stockings, one could feel Li Chang's anger and ferocious face. He looked at Professor AI with eyes full of anger. As long as you let my wife go, I will let you pass your graduation thesis. Professor AI said with a sullen face. Li Chang laughed sinisterly, sure enough, if I don't show you power, you will never know fear. Now, in front of me, you are like a dog. I've written it more than 10 times. Every time I hand it to you, you'll just take a look at it and reject it. Do you know how much effort I've put into this thesis? You treat it like trash and refuse to let me pass it again and again. The more Li Chang spoke, the more agitated he became. It seemed that he wanted to vent the anger and pleasure in his heart. Ning Shu looked at Li Chang. He was really obsessed. Ning Shu looked at Professor AI. Professor AI rubbed his eyebrows and said to Ning Shu helplessly, every time he hands in a thesis, it's almost the same. Moreover, it's very far from the topic. Even if he slightly touches on the topic, I'll still let him pass. Ning Shu. Chapter 1342. Kidnapping someone just because of a thesis. His mental fortitude was a little too weak. It was fine if he made a mistake once, but he made so many mistakes. Why didn't he know how to change? Was he stupid? He felt that there was something wrong with this student's mental state. He was hit like this by the thesis. He made a mistake once, and he didn't know where he went wrong. He was speechless. Then the thesis was rejected. He felt resentment in his heart. He was rejected again and again. Didn't he know how to ask? He didn't say anything. Gradually, it developed into hatred. Ning Shu grabbed his hair and was a little speechless. He immediately said, "This is my father's fault. My father didn't make it clear. But how did you know that I am Professor AI's daughter?" Li Chang paused and said fiercely, "Who doesn't know that Professor AI has a beautiful daughter? I originally wanted to kidnap you, but you never go out. If I kidnap you, it will make them feel even more heartbroken. This guy is crazy. Did he become stupid from studying?" It made people speechless. If you don't say it, who knows what you are thinking in your heart? People can't go into your heart and know what you are thinking in your heart. Professor AI said to Li Chang, "Li Chang, let go of your teacher's wife. Can I let you pass my graduation thesis?" "No, it's too late now. You will only know if I show you some power." Sure enough, Professor AI, you are still a coward. You were so awe-inspiring when you threw my thesis. Why are you so scared now? Li Chang laughed a little crazily, and his tone was full of laughter. Ning Shu frowned tightly. There were so many lunatics in this world. In this era of great pressure and competition, everyone was more or less mentally ill. If there was no way to release these emotions would be suppressed in their hearts. Over time, their hearts would become fucking perverted. All actions were to relieve the emotions and pressure in their hearts. But it was unforgivable to joke about other people's lives. After Ning Shu called the police car quickly arrived. The police car stopped under the teaching building and quickly pulled up the cordon. Li Chang heard the alarm and looked downstairs. He saw the air mattress below. There were many people gathered below. The policemen in police uniforms made Li Chang's heart tremble. Li Chang was very quiet. Being watched by so many people, he was very afraid. Thinking that his life was over, Li Chang was scared and anxious. He shouted angrily to Ning Shu and Professor AI, "You actually called the police." Li Chang stretched out his hand, wanting to push Mother AI down. Mother AI didn't say a word, but her face was pale and she looked scared. It was obvious that she was very scared. Ning Shu immediately shouted, "Wait a minute." Li Chang looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu spread out his hands. "This is actually a very simple matter. Why do you have to make such a fuss? You see, the police are already here. If you let my mother go, we won't pursue this matter anymore. As long as we don't pursue the matter, nothing will happen to you," Ning Shu said firmly. Li Chang stood there hesitantly. It was obvious that Ning Shu's words had moved him. The cause of this matter was the thesis. The reason why Li Chang was so anxious to kidnap people was because it was related to his own future. If he was caught by the police now, his future would be over. "Is what you said true?" Li Chang asked Ning Shu with some uncertainty. Just as Ning Shu was about to nod, the iron door on the roof creaked. The people who came up were the police and Cheng Fei. When Cheng Fei saw Ning Shu, his eyes lit up. He quickly walked to Ning Shu's side and asked, "AI Yun, are you all right?" Ning Shu frowned, "Why are you here?" "I received news that something happened at school, so I quickly came over to take a look." Cheng Fei said, looking at the tied-up Mother AI, "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to Mom." "Thank you," Ning Shu said indifferently. He received the news really quickly and rushed over with the police. Previously, Ning Shu felt that this was just an ordinary revenge incident, but now that Cheng Fei came over, Ning Shu didn't feel that this was just an ordinary revenge incident. Ning Shu reached into his pocket and turned on the recording on his phone, just in case. Cheng Fei protected Ning Shu behind him and said indifferently to Li Chang, "You have to consider the consequences before you do anything. You can't blame others for your own failure. You have to think carefully. If you push people down, you may face the consequences of imprisonment." Cheng Fei looked at Li Chang, who was wearing black stockings. Li Chang was panting heavily, and even his eyes were a little scarlet. Kidnapping for money is a prison term of more than 10 years. If you kill or injure the kidnapped person, causing serious injury or death, you will be sentenced to life imprisonment or death. Your life has already been such a failure. Do you still want to spend the rest of your life in chaos? Li Chang grabbed the black stockings on his head, revealing an inconspicuous face. Li Chang stared at Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei was handsome and slender. The clothes he wore were all famous brands, and he had a very temperament. It made Li Chang fall into the mud. So what if I'm a failure? So what if my thesis didn't pass? It was obvious that Professor AI deliberately made things difficult for me and didn't let me pass. Cheng Fei curled the corners of his mouth in disdain. He didn't say a word, but his disdain was obvious. Ning Shu was speechless. Fuck, Ning Shu had just comforted Li Chang. Li Chang was also afraid. Just when he was about to finish, Cheng Fei appeared. He was half threatening and half reasonable again. He even said that others failed, and you are the most successful. Seeing Li Chang trembling all over, Ning Shu didn't feel very good. He rushed towards Mother AI, but Li Chang still pushed Mother AI down. Ning Shu grabbed the rope around Mrs. AI's body. Seeing this, Cheng Fei quickly ran over to pull Ning Shu. Li Chang was now provoked. Even if there was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire in front of him, he didn't care. He was mocked by Cheng Fei, especially when Ching Fei was outstanding in all aspects. In front of Ching Fei, Li Chang felt extremely inferior. That feeling of shame and anger turned into a desperate desire to protect his self-esteem. Li Chang's face was distorted. He actually pushed Ning Shu over. Ning Shu turned around and kicked him. Ching Fei pulled Mother Ai's rope and pulled her up with Ning Shu. Li Chang, who was kicked to the ground by Ning Shu, got up. Ning Shu rushed over. Ai Yun, be careful. Ching Fei pulled Ning Shu away. He was careless and was hit by Li Chang. His body flipped and he fell downstairs. He fell down from upstairs. There was an uproar and screams downstairs. Ning Shu quickly looked down and saw Ching Fei fall heavily on the air cushion. Some police officers went up to carry Ching Fei, who had already fainted. Chapter 1343. Ching Fei was sent to the ambulance and Li Chang was also restrained. Things happened very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Ching Fei had already fallen downstairs. Li Chang's expression was blank. Obviously, he did not expect that he would do such a thing. Li Chang was very afraid. He was afraid of what would happen in the future and fainted. Ning Shu untied the rope on Mother Ai's body. Mother Ai cried and hit Ning Shu, who told you to rush over. Do you know how dangerous it is? Ning Shu quickly dodged. Mom, you hit my wound. Mother Ai's body went soft and she sat on the ground. Ning Shu said, quickly go and see Ching Fei. Don't let anything happen to Ching Fei. Professor Ai helped Mother Ai up with a face full of fear. Ning Shu said, quickly go to the hospital. You don't have to worry about family matters. In order to save you, Ching Fei fell from such a high place. Quickly go and take a look. Professor Ai pushed Ning Shu, go quickly. Ning Shu did not want to go. She could clearly handle it herself, so why did Ching Fei rush over? Seriously. He even made her fall. She really did not know what Ching Fei was thinking. Could it be a trick? If it was really a trick, the price would be a little high. What are you waiting for? Go quickly. Professor Ai said. Ning Shu could only go downstairs to the hospital and said to the police, Police comrade, I hope you can investigate this Li Chang properly. Check his communication tools and see who he contacted. This kidnapping is very sudden. It seems to be a last-minute plan. Ning Shu said. The policeman nodded. We will investigate this matter clearly. Ning Shu touched the phone in his pocket and turned off the recording before going to the hospital. When he arrived at the hospital, he asked the doctor how Ching Fei was doing. The doctor only said that he had a concussion and would have to wait for the patient to wake up. Ning Shu sat by the bed and looked at the unconscious Ching Fei. This man was abnormally peaceful and handsome when he slept. If only he was a normal person. But if he was a normal person, he would not be so perfect. Ching Fei's perfection was achieved through strict self-discipline. He didn't have any bad habits. Releasing one's nature and being lazy were all part of one's nature, but Ching Fei didn't have these shortcomings. It was normal to not stand if one could lie down. He didn't know when Ching Fei started to consciously control himself. Ning Shu was munching on an apple by the bed. He was really frightened just now and wanted to eat an apple to calm himself down. Auntie Ai almost fell down the stairs. With his entire body tied up, it was easy for something to happen. She could have avoided him, but Ching Fei insisted on pulling her. Ning Shu was not grateful at all. Instead, he had caused her to be in debt. Ching Fei's eyelashes fluttered and he was about to wake up. Ning Shu threw away the fruit pit and looked at him. Ching Fei opened his eyes and saw Ning Shu's big face. He immediately asked, Ai Yun, are you alright? I'm fine. But you, on the other hand, why did you rush over without any regard for your life, only to be knocked down the stairs. I saw that you were in danger and I was anxious. Are you hurt? Cheng Fei looked up and down at Ning Shu and let out a long breath. It's good that you're fine. We can't let this matter go. We were lucky this time and nothing happened. What if something like this happens again? Cheng Fei's face was very serious. He had never heard of a student kidnapping a professor. Ning Shu's expression was indifferent as he peeled an apple. He handed the peeled apple to Cheng Fei. Do you want an apple? You eat it. I have a headache. Cheng Fei waved his hand and rubbed his temples with one hand. Ning Shu took a bite of the apple and said, the doctor said that you have a concussion and you have to go for a CT scan later. How are you going to deal with this matter? Cheng Fei felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. The world was spinning and it was really uncomfortable. Ning Shu chewed the apple with a calm expression. It's up to Dad to deal with this matter. After all, Li Chang is Dad's student. Cheng Fei lay down. Ning Shu said, that's true. It's up to Dad to deal with it. Ning Shu said helplessly, you shouldn't have rushed over. I'm doing this for you. Cheng Fei stared at Ning Shu with misty eyes. Ning Shu looked away. Don't look at me like that. A grown man looks very pitiful. Ning Shu stood up. I'll go back and get you something to eat. Cheng Fei grabbed Ning Shu's hand and whispered, don't go. I'm not hungry now. Ning Shu patted Cheng Fei's hand and then pulled his hand away. Be good. Don't be willful. Ning Shu turned and left the ward. Cheng Fei stared at Ning Shu's back and then closed his eyes. Ning Shu returned home. There were police officers at home. Ning Shu asked, how's the investigation going? The police officer said, Li Chang has a grudge because of the graduation thesis. We found it on his computer. He was chatting with Tian Hai, who was at the same level. Li Chang complained to Tian Hai about Professor AI. The student called Tian Hai felt that the professor should be taught a lesson. The professor would definitely kneel in front of him and beg him. The police officer wore gloves, took out his laptop, and opened the chat interface. Ning Shu browsed through the chat records. Li Chang vented his emotions on the internet and scolded Professor AI with very unpleasant words. And this person called Tian Hai had been instigating Li Chang. Did you ask this Tian Hai? Ning Shu asked. Professor AI said, this Tian Hai doesn't look like such a person. Why would he instigate Li Chang to do such a thing? We went to interrogate Tian Hai. Tian Hai said that his account was stolen. He denied that he was the one chatting with Li Chang. The police officer said, we will investigate this matter again. Don't worry, Professor AI. Can you find out who stole the account? Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu noted down Tian Hai's chat account. Let's see if we can check it out. Let's see if my hacking skills are good enough. Thank you. Professor AI shook hands with the police officer and sent him away. Ning Shu went to the bedroom to see Mother AI. Mother AI was lying on the bed, uneasy and frowning. His face was still as pale as a sheet. Ning Shu held Mother AI's hand and channeled some spiritual energy into her body. He said, Mom, it's okay now. Mother AI looked at Ning Shu and asked, where's Cheng Fei? Ning Shu said, he has a slight concussion, but nothing else. Mother AI breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing serious happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to face Cheng Fei's parents. Cheng Fei's parents were abroad all year round and rarely returned to China. AI Yun basically didn't live with her in-laws. Mother AI looked at Ning Shu. It said that a friend in need is a friend indeed. Cheng Fei has done this for you. Don't talk about divorce anymore. Cheng Fei is the one who takes care of everything at home. You're living a comfortable life. Why do you have to divorce him? Chapter 1344. Mrs. AI took the opportunity to talk to Ning Shu about Qing Fei. She was trying to stop Ning Shu from divorcing Qing Fei. AI Yun, you're my daughter. I want someone to take care of you. Qing Fei is a good candidate. I don't understand why you insist on getting a divorce. Ning Shu said indifferently, I'll think about it. Rest well. I'll take care of everything at home. I'll cook. Ning Shu knew that this would be the case. Look at how people are willing to die for you. How can you be so indifferent? Ning Shu hated this situation. He had to force her. It was as if she was wrong when everyone else was right. Ning Shu was afraid that Mrs. AI would nag about Qing Fei again, so he quickly left the room. Back in his room, Ning Shu took out his computer and entered Tian Hai's account number. Ning Shu didn't know Tian Hai's password, so he could only change it. Ning Shu checked the IP address of this number last time it was logged in. There were a lot of logins, but the IP address was fake. There were IP addresses from all over the world. It was obvious that he was using an IP address virtual machine. Ning Shu browsed through these IP addresses and saw an address in a local city. Ning Shu quickly recorded this address and checked it. Coincidentally, this cafe was close to Qing Fei's clinic. Ning Shu sneered. Ning Shu even suspected that Qing Fei knew everything about her family. He knew about Professor AI's work environment and even her students. If that was the case, Qing Fei was scarier than she thought. A person's energy was limited. Qing Fei had to collect these things in addition to work every day. He also had to take care of her, who was mentally ill. He was simply superhuman. Break cable, handkerchief, IP address. These were more or less related to Qing Fei. That meant Qing Fei didn't have good intentions towards her. Why did Qing Fei kill AI Yun's parents? What did AI Yun's parents do to him? Or did he kill AI Yun's parents so that AI Yun could only rely on him and would never leave him again? Or was it because Qing Fei wanted to do something to AI Yun, and AI Yun's parents were in the way, so he got rid of them? Fuck, no matter which one it was, they were all so fucking perverted. Li Chang had already given up on the kidnapping operation because he was moved by Ning Shu's words, but when Qing Fei appeared, he immediately changed his mind. The situation took a turn for the worse. It was said that opposites attract and those of the same sex fight. Women and women, men and men. Especially Qing Fei and Li Chang, it was simply a crushing comparison. Li Chang was even despised by Qing Fei. It would be strange if he could remain calm. Li Chang was so agitated that he pushed people away. In the end, Qing Fei even knocked him downstairs. Once a person had doubts, no matter what he did, he would have doubts in his heart. Just like now, Ning Shu had many doubts about Qing Fei. If he told a lie, even if he told the truth, he would still suspect whether he was lying or not. It was not easy to build trust, but it was easy to destroy it. Not to mention that Ning Shu had these things in his hands. It was fine if it was a coincidence, but the more things there were, the more it proved that Qing Fei's thoughts were not pure. AI Yun, make some soup for Qing Fei. Professor AI knocked on Ning Shu's door. I'll go with you to see Qing Fei later. Ning Shu closed his laptop and said, Qing Fei is dizzy and nauseous now. How can he eat? There's no need to make soup. Making soup. Was it troublesome? Professor AI stared at Ning Shu. Whether Qing Fei drinks or not is his business. Whether you do it or not is your intention. I say, girl, do you have a heart? Ning Shu was speechless. Did he want her to cry bitterly and be out of her wits? What's more, for someone who deliberately wanted to hurt her, it was already merciful of her not to cremate him. Amitba. Ning Shu changed the topic and asked, what are you going to do about Li Chang's matter? Are you going to appeal? A case like Li Chang's was already considered a criminal case, not an ordinary civil case. It did not mean that it would be fine if Professor AI did not pursue it. Just as Ching Fei said, kidnapping was a felony. Thinking of what Ching Fei said, Ning Shu realized that Ching Fei was very likely proficient in the law. Sometimes, the law was not meant to be obeyed, but used to be used. If used well, even if one committed a crime, they might be acquitted. If he had prepared these words in advance, it meant that Ching Fei knew that there might be a kidnapping and deliberately said these words to pressure Li Chang. If he did not know, he would have casually said the law. He also knew how to sentence him. No matter what, it meant that Ching Fei was not simple. Professor AI saw Ning Shu in a daze. Come with me to see Ching Fei later. Ning Shu came back to his senses. I got it. Ning Shu took out his phone and listened to the voice recorded at that time. He listened to Ching Fei's words repeatedly. Ching Fei was provoking Li Chang. People did not like others to look down on them. Li Chang was an inferior and conceited person. He was taciturn and had a strong self-esteem. A thesis had been rejected more than 10 times. He did not ask the professor where the problem was and just did it so many times. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. Oh, Ching Fei. Professor AI asked Ning Shu to go to the hospital. Ning Shu had just returned from the hospital and did not want to see Ching Fei at all. How could a person be split? On one hand, he was affectionate and on the other hand, he killed your whole family. He definitely had schizophrenia. Ning Shu had goosebumps. I'll take care of Mom at home. You can go, Ning Shu said to Professor AI. Professor AI thought that his wife was still in shock. It was good to have someone at home, so he went alone. Ning Shu was in the kitchen cooking porridge for Mother AI. He stirred the spoon and suddenly stopped. Ning Shu turned off the fire, took off his apron, and said to Mother AI, Mom, I'm going out for a while. Don't walk around. Ning Shu ran out of the house with his bag. Ning Shu hit his head. How could he be so stupid? How could he let Professor AI go alone to see Ching Fei? It was very likely that Ching Fei was the mastermind behind the kidnapping. The AI family's parents had a good impression of Ching Fei. How could they be wary of Ching Fei? Ning Shu rushed to the hospital. When he rushed to the ward, he found Ching Fei sitting on the bed and talking to Professor AI. Professor AI saw Ning Shu in a hurry and asked, Did something happen to your mother? Ning Shu rolled his eyes and said, Yes, Mom is in pain all over. She needs you to go back and feed her. Professor AI said to Ching Fei, who was lying on the bed, Have a good rest. I'm going back to see your mother-in-law. Ching Fei immediately said, Dad, you go back first. I'm fine. Professor AI left, and only Ning Shu and Ching Fei were left in the ward. Ching Fei smiled at Ning Shu. Why did you send me away? Do you have something to tell me? Ning Shu shrugged. Nothing. Did you do a CT scan? Is there anything wrong with your brain? Chapter 1345. Ning Shu hoped that there was something wrong with Ching Fei's brain and that he would not have any bad ideas all day. Fortunately, it's just a concussion. It's not that serious. I am a doctor myself, so I know what's going on. Don't worry. Ching Fei said gently as he looked at Ning Shu with sparkling eyes. Ning Shu, I am not worried at all. Ning Shu was annoyed, but he pretended to ask casually. You know the law. Didn't I tell you before that I studied law? But it's just superficial knowledge. My real job is a doctor. Ching Fei looked at Ning Shu. Don't you remember? Ning Shu shrugged. I don't remember at all. Maybe you told me before, but I don't remember it at all. Ning Shu felt that Ching Fei was testing him, so he simply said that he did not know anything. What if he did not tell AI Yun? Ching Fei sighed and looked at Ning Shu lovingly. I'm a little hungry. I want to eat something. Ning Shu asked him back. Can you eat now? Don't vomit after eating. Cheng Fei nodded. I don't feel that bad anymore. Ning Shu went out to buy food for Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei called out to Ning Shu. Ning Shu turned to look at him. Cheng Fei smiled and said, just order some porridge. Ning Shu nodded. Ning Shu ordered some porridge and asked someone to send it to him. She was too lazy to go back to the hospital, so she walked by the roadside. How should she deal with Cheng Fei? She didn't know what Cheng Fei was asking for. Was it to cheat insurance? But Cheng Fei did not look like he was short of money. He had a house and a car. He looked like a very romantic person. Ning Shu did not believe that he was doing it for money. He felt that he was doing these things for a more respectable ideal. Ning Shu had never met such a person. If Cheng Fei really wanted to kill the two elders of the AI family, or even AI Yun, Cheng Fei was the real bigot. He was the kind of bigot who was good at social functions and had a high IQ and was good at hiding. Ning Shu was speechless. Truly, there were all sorts of strange things in the boundless universe. Ning Shu was wondering if she should tell the AI family's elderly couple about this. However, Cheng Fei always presented a positive image in front of outsiders. He was handsome, rich, and had a good character. Just like when she wanted to get a divorce, Mrs. AI had always told her not to be pretentious and that Cheng Fei was a good man. Moreover, he was the kind of man that she would never meet again if she missed him in this lifetime. Anyone who saw him would give him a thumbs up. Fuck, he's managed his image really well. Ning Shu went to the police station, intending to ask the police. No matter how Cheng Fei tried to disguise himself, he would not be able to escape once there was evidence. Ning Shu went to the police station and took out the IP address he found before. The real IP address was shown to the police. It's this person who stole Tian Hai's chat number. It's this person who instigated Li Chang to commit the crime, so this person should be found. The police officer held Ning Shu's evidence. The people from the technical department have also found these things. The problem is that this IP address is in the coffee shop. How many people are there in the coffee shop every day? There are more people who have used the coffee shop's network, so there's no way to check this. The police officer said. Ning Shu suspected Cheng Fei in his heart, but he could not say it out loud. Li Chang is at most an executor. The person who instigated Li Chang to commit the crime is the mastermind. I suspect that it's my father's enemy who found Li Chang and used him to achieve his goal of revenge. I think we should start investigating from the surroundings of the coffee shop. People who are far away from the coffee shop wouldn't come all the way here to drink coffee. It should be the people around here. The police officer nodded. We've already sent people to guard the coffee shop. You can rest assured about this. Ning Shu nodded. The police officer thought for a moment, and Ning Shu asked, there's your husband's clinic around this coffee shop. What do you think? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Was he suspecting Cheng Fei? Ning Shu indicated that his suspicion was quite high. Ning Shu shook his head. My husband's clinic is around here, but my husband is definitely not the leader of this matter. We think it's an acquaintance who committed this crime. The police officer said. Are you still investigating this matter? The police officer asked. Ning Shu bit his lips, his expression conflicted, and then nodded firmly. This matter must be investigated thoroughly. This concerns my father's personal safety. However, this matter shouldn't be done by my husband. He has always been very filial and treats my parents as his own mother, so this matter must not be done by my husband. Even if we're going to get a divorce, he's still very good to our family. I'll take the liberty to ask, are you guys getting a divorce? The police officer Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu nodded, yes, we're getting a divorce. Then what's the reason for the divorce? The police officer continued to ask, while writing in his notebook. This Ning Shu hesitated a little and did not want to say. Please tell us the truth. It might be helpful for the case. The police officer encouraged Ning Shu. Ning Shu helplessly told the police that Cheng Fei had installed cameras in the house and sewed something in her wound. The police officer looked solemn and asked, "Why did he sew a tracking device in your wound and install so many cameras to spy on you?" Ning Shu sighed again, saying that her husband thought that she had a mental disorder. The police officer understood the situation from Ning Shu, and then asked Ning Shu to go home, saying that he would inform Ning Shu if anything happened. If possible, he wanted Ning Shu to give them the key to Cheng Fei's clinic so that they could investigate thoroughly. Ning Shu shook her head. She did not have the key to Cheng Fei's clinic. What kind of husband and wife were they if they did not even have the key? She was raising a canary. Ai Yun could not participate in Cheng Fei's financial situation at all, so she did not know what Cheng Fei bought. Ning Shu went home. Ai Yun's mother had already woken up. When she saw Ning Shu, she asked, "Aren't you keeping watch at the hospital? Cheng Fei is alone. It's inconvenient for him to be alone." Ning Shu, that every time Ai Yun's mother mentioned Cheng Fei, she would feel sorry for him. She felt that Cheng Fei was very pitiful. The more she acted like this, the more Ning Shu's heart trembled. Cheng Fei had disguised himself well to deceive people. There are so many nurses in the hospital. If he needs anything, he can go to them. Ning Shu spread out her hands and said. Ai Yun's mother was speechless. "Look at you. Your husband fell from more than 10 meters and you're still acting like this. How can you be like this?" "Yes, I am heartless, unrighteous, and unreasonable." "Okay." Ning Shu said sadly. "Yes, you are heartless, unrighteous, and unreasonable." Ning Shu, in terms of the lethality of a good-looking and financially strong man to a woman, she felt that Ai Yun's mother wanted to put her and Cheng Fei together. In comparison, Professor Ai was much more rational. Ai Yun's mother was too emotional. Chapter 1346. In the end, Ning Shu didn't go to the hospital to take care of Cheng Fei. Instead, he picked up a broom and a mop and started cleaning. Ning Shu wanted to check if the Ai family had cameras or something like that. Right now, she was already panicking. She had to ensure the safety of the Ai family's elderly couple. What did they do wrong? She believed in Cheng Fei and married her daughter to Cheng Fei. She treated Cheng Fei well but still lost her life because of it. Who could they blame? Blame the old couple from the Ai clan? Blame themselves for being stupid and for trusting others so easily? Who would have thought that his son-in-law was such a person? Most people wouldn't guard against the people they were close to. Mrs. Ai sat on the sofa and looked at Ning Shu as he cleaned the house. Don't do it anymore. Go to the hospital and take care of Cheng Fei. Don't go too far. It's disappointing. Even if he is an ordinary person, you shouldn't be like this when a stranger saves you like this. Moreover, Cheng Fei is your husband, the person you depend on to reach the end of your life. Ning Shu straightened up and couldn't help but pick his ear. Mom, can you stop talking about Cheng Fei in my ear every day? Now I feel irritated whenever I hear him. Ai's mother opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. Ning Shu saw her like this and his heart softened. He said, Mom, there are other secrets to your kidnapping. In addition to Li Chang, there are also people behind the scenes. Now the police are tracking down the murderer. The police told us not to go out as much as possible. If there's anything, call us. Cheng Fei will be fine. Mrs. Ai didn't mention anything about Cheng Fei either. She was afraid that her daughter would be annoyed and have a rebellious mentality. She really didn't want to lose such a good son-in-law. Moreover, he was good to her daughter. If it were someone else, Mother Ai wouldn't say anything if they couldn't live anymore. She was willing to give up her life for her daughter. Mrs. AI felt that there was nothing she couldn't get over. Seeing that Mother AI had stopped talking, Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that Mother AI was going through menopause. She liked to nag over and over again. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that it was because he liked Ching Fei as his son-in-law. Ning Shu continued to clean. He didn't even let go of the underside of the table. Perhaps there were listening devices. Mrs. AI rolled her eyes when she saw Ning Shu crawling on the ground and then leaning against the wall like a gecko. This daughter of his looked really abnormal. Ning Shu didn't find anything strange for the time being, so he sat down. Thinking of his own mental strength, he simply released his mental strength. A formless spiritual power was released from Ning Shu's head. Wherever the spiritual power went, nothing could hide. Ning Shu even saw a coin under the sofa and a thick layer of dust. To think that mental strength could be used in such a way. In the past, he had to look for things everywhere with his butt stuck out. When Ning Shu scanned Mother AI, he actually knew what kind of underwear Mother AI was wearing today. He also knew all the characteristics of her body. It was as if Mother AI was naked in front of her. She had X-ray vision. However, this consumed a lot of mental energy. After a short while, Ning Shu's face turned pale. He had overdrawn his mental energy. Ning Shu collapsed on the sofa with a terrible headache. Ning Shu discovered another skill that could be used in this way. The last time he had escaped from planet Selder, he had used his mental power to avoid the spaceship. This time, he had once again explored the use of mental strength. Ning Shu was once again called by the police for questioning. They were all asking about Ching Fei and Professor AI. When Ning Shu saw the police like this, he was a little excited. This time, they suspected Ching Fei. When Professor AI heard the police's question, he was stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses and answered the police honestly. The police officer Ning Shu asked, "What kind of person do you think your husband is?" "He's a good person, very good," Ning Shu said. "He's good-looking, capable, and knows how to make money. We'll go around and investigate your husband. Your husband has a very good reputation and his evaluation is very positive. Other than installing cameras at home and implanting a locator in your body, is there anything else? Please think about it and answer us honestly." The police officer looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu shook his head. "No, there's nothing excessive." The police officer saw that Ning Shu looked hesitant, as if he was hiding something. He immediately said, "Please tell us the truth." Ning Shu spread his hands. "I have nothing to say, and I'm not hiding anything. Ms. AI, you have to think about it. There is a very dangerous person around you who threatens the safety of your family. Are you going to cover for him?" Ning Shu's expression did not change. "I've already said that my husband is not such a person. How many times do you want me to say it? Why are you investigating my husband instead of other people? Ms. AI, this matter has a great impact. Not only Li Chang, but also your father's school. And your school's principal has also asked us to investigate this matter clearly. This is related to the school's reputation. A student kidnapping is different from an instigated kidnapping," the police officer said. Ning Shu touched his bag with a hesitant expression. The police officer saw Ning Shu's actions and asked, "Ms. AI, I hope you can think about it carefully." Ning Shu took a deep breath and shook his head. "My husband is not that kind of person. I have nothing to say." Ning Shu stood up and left with his bag. As soon as he left the police station, Professor AI frowned and said, "Are the police suspecting Ching Fei now?" "It's not that they suspect Ching Fei, but this matter is committed by an acquaintance. Ching Fei's clinic happens to be near the coffee shop. Any human action has a purpose and meaning. Why did Ching Fei do this? Is it because I agreed to your divorce? Besides, with Cheng Fei's conditions, even if he gets divorced, he can marry a good girl. There's really no need to pay such a high price. Ning Shu spread his hands. Who knows what Cheng Fei is thinking? However, I think if it's really Cheng Fei, why did he save you and make himself in such a sorry state? He even fell from the stairs. If he's not careful, he will be injured or even die. Professor AI thought about it and couldn't figure out Cheng Fei's purpose. Moreover, he only left such a real IP address. Why did he leave such an address for people to investigate? Ning Shu was also puzzled after much thought. Don't tell your mother about this first. She just had such a thing and hasn't recovered yet. Professor AI told Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. I know. Don't mind your mother's nagging. Your mother is worried for you. She's worried that no one will take care of you after we leave. Cheng Fei seems to be a very responsible man. Your mother insists on not letting you divorce. Professor AI rubbed his eyebrows. Chapter 1347. Professor AI looked a little tired. No matter what this matter was, it was still a scandal. His student kidnapped his wife. He couldn't stay in school anymore. He had to face punishment. Ning Shu looked at Professor AI and said, Dad, I was driving our car and the brakes were broken. The garage said that the brake cable was worn out. But we don't use the car much. How could the brake cable be worn out like that? Besides you, only Cheng Fei drove this car, Ning Shu said. Professor AI narrowed his eyes. So you think Cheng Fei did it? Ning Shu shook his head. It's useless to say anything without evidence. I just want to say that so many things have happened in our family recently. It's really strange. Since I said I wanted a divorce. Ning Shu spread his hands. I'm just suspecting. Then let's assume that Cheng Fei didn't want to divorce you, so he did this. Professor AI looked puzzled. But your mother likes Cheng Fei the most. She's very opposed to your divorce. Why would he hurt your mother? What if it's someone who wants to kill our family from the start? Don't talk about feelings. Don't jump to conclusions without evidence. Let's wait for the police to investigate. Professor AI didn't expect this to happen. It was a student's matter. In the end, he suspected his family. Ning Shu nodded and touched his bag. He didn't want to take out these things for the time being. Ning Shu felt that Cheng Fei wasn't easy to deal with. He couldn't take out his trump card too early. He had to at least keep something in hand. Ning Shu got into the car and thought about Cheng Fei's information. In the memory of the original AI Yun, Cheng Fei was an orphan who was adopted by a Chinese couple. This couple was Cheng Fei's sponsor, but they didn't live with him. The couple spent most of their time abroad, but Cheng Fei grew up in China. That was to say, AI Yun had only seen this pair of parents-in-law during their wedding. Other times, there was no news about them at all. Cheng Fei said that his adoptive parents traveled around the world and couldn't be contacted. It was like he didn't have parents. Once again, he found one of Cheng Fei's strengths. He had a car and a house, but his parents were both dead. I should investigate Cheng Fei's adoptive parents. I don't know where they are now. After adopting a child, they didn't live together and left the child in the country. Didn't they think about how the child should live? It did feel rather strange. Maybe Cheng Fei was lying when he said that he didn't receive any foreign education. He didn't think too much about it before, but now that he thought about it, Cheng Fei had a loophole. Furthermore, the original owner, AI Yun, had never contacted her in-laws. Perhaps these in-laws did not exist. In that case, Cheng Fei might not have been adopted at all. Instead, he made up the story that he was adopted by a Chinese couple. Then, the orphanage where Cheng Fei would stay in would have Cheng Fei's previous information. But where was Cheng Fei's orphanage? He knew nothing about Ching Fei. Ching Fei was becoming more and more mysterious. If Ching Fei was really an orphan, it must not have been easy for him to fight so hard. Ning Shu scratched her head. Where should she go to find an orphanage? Moreover, it had been so many years. Was the orphanage that Ching Fei had stayed in still around? Ning Shu realized that the simpler the plot, the fewer useful things there were. The original owner felt that her husband had killed her, but so far, there had been no progress in this matter. Do you want to go to the hospital to see Ching Fei? Professor AI asked. This matter hasn't been concluded yet. What if the murderer isn't Ching Fei? To be honest, I don't want Ching Fei to do this. Your mother and I have always treated Ching Fei as our own son. We treat you and him equally. I believe you and I'm willing to believe him, Professor AI said. Ning Shu sighed. Of course not. We're about to get a divorce. How can we still be together? Professor AI was speechless. You suspect Ching Fei, so you don't want to see him. Ning Shu shook her head. I don't want to leave you and Mom now. The crisis you're in is not over yet. Li Chang did such a thing because of the thesis. The person behind this is eyeing Li Yong covetously. He knows about Li Yong's matter and instigated Li Yong. Professor AI drove in silence. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask Professor AI, are you usually very strict with your students and force them to do this? Professor AI coughed. Do you think your father is that kind of person? Students nowadays are too weak mentally. In the past, they would have wished that their teachers would talk to them more. Professor AI wiped his face. Besides, being strict with them is for their own good. If they don't learn now, are they going to ask others when they leave the school? They've already spent money. Don't learn what you need to learn. Ning Shu listened to Professor AI's chatter and knew what kind of teaching method Professor AI had. Good medicine is bitter, and you'll complain. Do I really look strict? Professor AI couldn't help but ask. I'm just asking students to do what they should do. Am I going overboard? Ning Shu was speechless. Actually, people were like this. If they hadn't suffered a loss, they would always be lucky. These students were the same. However, everything goes in the opposite direction. Too much is as bad as not enough. You're not strict, Dad. You're a great teacher, Ning Shu said. Professor AI nodded. Exactly. Back home, Ning Shu turned on his computer and planned to hack into the education system to check Ching Fei's school records. He might be able to find the orphanage that Ching Fei used to stay in. Ning Shu's fingers flew across the keyboard. He spent some time hacking into the system. He entered Ching Fei's name. However, many of Ching Fei's names popped up. Ching Fei didn't have a special name. There were many people with the same name. Ning Shu entered the age filter. Ning Shu scrolled the mouse and looked at the photos on the school records. Finally, he fixed his gaze on a photo. His eyes and eyebrows were similar to Ching Fei's. His eyes were young and his eyes were calm. It should be him. Ning Shu browsed through Ching Fei's education history. There was no information before he graduated from primary school. There was only information in middle school. Moreover, he had transferred back from overseas. This meant that Ching Fei was not in the country before he was 12 years old. Could it be that Ching Fei was really adopted? But why did he suddenly come back? Ning Shu stared at the information on the computer. He saw the parents' information. It was a string of names of foreigners who were already dead. Dead? When the original owner and Ching Fei got married, he saw this pair of parents-in-law. However, this couple died when Ching Fei was 12 years old. Chapter 1348. Maybe his adoptive parents died, so he was sent back to China. Then why did Ching Fei create a fake set of parents? He probably hired his parents. Ning Shu clicked his tongue. He felt that Cheng Fei really knew how to play. He was really a jinx. He was an orphan since he was young. Someone adopted him and even his adoptive parents died. After browsing through the information, Ning Shu couldn't find the orphanage where Cheng Fei used to live. Because Cheng Fei's information started from when he was 12 years old. All the information before that was from overseas. It was blank. Ning Shu exited the system and cleared his hacking records. The education system belonged to the country after all. He didn't want to get caught. So, he checked but didn't find anything useful. At most, Cheng Fei had lied about his adoptive parents. They were already dead, but he still made his adoptive parents appear at the wedding. Then why did Cheng Fei lie? It was because he didn't want Ai Yun to know that his adoptive parents were dead. That meant that Cheng Fei didn't want anyone to know that he was overseas. Something must have happened. Ning Shu pulled her hair. Oh, my God. Why was this so complicated? He felt that it would be extremely difficult to catch Cheng Fei's tail. This was a lawful society. Ning Shu couldn't kill him directly. When Ai Yun came back, she found herself in jail. This feeling was really awesome. It was like a dream. When I woke up, I was in jail. I was wronged. Ning Shu was racking his brains to think of a solution when his phone rang. It was Cheng Fei. Ning Shu stared at his phone. Should he pick it up? Should he pick it up? Ning Shu picked it up decisively. What's the matter? Ai Yun, you haven't come to see me in a long time. I miss you. Cheng Fei's voice was magnetic and charming. It felt like his voice was doing something to her ears. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed. Something happened at home. How are you? I'm fine. I've been discharged. You didn't come to pick me up. Cheng Fei sounded aggrieved. And this was only over the phone. If they were face to face, looking at a pair of pitiful Bambi's pitiful and aggrieved look, wouldn't one's heart melt? Ning Shu decisively cut off his own thoughts. If he continued to think like this, Ning Shu felt that his little maternal instinct was about to be aroused. Men who knew how to act coquettishly were the best. Cheng Fei, tell me about your childhood. I realize that I really don't know anything about you. Ning Shu said, I know nothing about you. What do you want to know? I'm an orphan. When I was 5, I was taken in by a Chinese couple. They supported me all the way until I graduated from university. Cheng Fei's tone remained unchanged. What about the orphanage you used to stay in? Are you still going back? I'll go back with you one day. Maybe you can find your biological parents. Cheng Fei pondered for a moment. I don't want to find my biological parents. I was abandoned before I could remember anything. This means that my existence is very distressing to them. If they try their best to find me, it will only make things more awkward. It's best if we don't disturb each other. The orphanage I used to stay in closed more than 10 years ago because no one donated money. The place has been built into villas by developers. Ning Shu, my heart, Ai Yun, I'll wait for you at home. Are you coming back? Cheng Fei asked. Whether we are getting a divorce or not, I want to see you. I feel happy when I see you. Ning Shu covered his ears. He couldn't listen to this anymore. Ning Shu coughed. I have to take care of my mother. I can't go back for now. Take good care of yourself. Cheng Fei said pitifully, oh. Then he said some words of concern. Cheng Fei didn't hang up the phone. Ning Shu could hear his slight panting on the other side. Why didn't you hang up? I'll wait for you. Ning Shu hung up the phone with a hard heart. Being handsome didn't work for Ning Shu at all. If Cheng Fei was ugly and something like this happened, the AI couple would hurry to get a divorce. A handsome pervert was not a pervert. Instead, it made people feel sorry for him. An ugly pervert was really a pervert. There was no other way. People were tolerant of good-looking people. This was an advantage. Sigh, beauty misled people. Ning Shu went out of the bedroom to cook. Recently, the food at home was taken care of by Ning Shu. Ai Yun's mother was frightened and was a little tired. Professor Ai didn't want Ai Yun's mother to be tired, so Ning Shu took care of the laundry and cooking. However, Ning Shu's cooking didn't taste good. But because of what happened recently, people had no taste at all. Ning Shu's cooking was delicious, but the AI couple couldn't taste it. Professor AI came back with a haggard face. His expression was very ugly. Ning Shu quickly poured a glass of water for Professor AI and asked, "Dad, what happened?" Professor AI gulped down a mouthful of water and sighed. The culprit who instigated Li Chang was found. Found? So fast. Who is it? Ning Shu asked. Looking at Professor AI's expression, it didn't seem to be Ching Fei. It was a student from my class. His name is Li Chen. He admitted that he stole Tian Hai's account. Ning Shu, are you sure? Ning Shu was dumbfounded. Professor AI nodded. The police said that he couldn't withstand the pressure from the school and the police station and turned himself in. No, what's the IP address of the cafe? Ning Shu really couldn't figure it out. Li Chen admitted that he went to the cafe and checked the cafe's surveillance video. Li Chen did go there. Ning Shu, example. So this matter had nothing to do with Ching Fei. Ai Yun, don't you think Dad is a failure? 1 or 2 students hate me so much. I feel very tired. I want to resign. Ning Shu comforted him. It's hard to say what happened. Besides, you're going to retire soon. If you resign now, you won't even have a pension. Dad, hold on. It's good that we do things with a clear conscience. Ning Shu patted Professor AI's shoulder. This is a stain on your dad's life. The future of 2 students is ruined. Professor AI thought that he was still dedicated and responsible for his students. But such a thing had happened, which made Professor AI suspicious. Let these guys who don't know what's good for them just muddle through. What's the point of being responsible? Instead, they would complain. He didn't know how the school would deal with him this time. Ning Shu looked at the devastated Professor AI and comforted him. Dad, it's okay. Professor AI sighed. Ning Shu couldn't do anything. She couldn't help Professor AI with this kind of thing. Ning Shu took his bag and was ready to go out. Where are you going? Are you going to see Ching Fei? Professor AI asked. I have something to do. The rice is in the pot. Chapter 1349. Ning Shu rushed to the police station, and the first thing he said was, Ching Fei really didn't do this? Police, so you hope he did it, or you don't want him to do it. Li Chen has already said that he stole Tian Hai's chat account and instigated Li Chang to do such a thing, the police said. It's completely consistent with the evidence we have so far. It's basically Li Chen, the police said. Acquaintances committed crimes. Professor Xiu AI's class. IP address. Li Chen went to the coffee shop, and it was recorded by the coffee shop's camera. There were also chat records of the two on Li Chen's computer. It was perfect. What about Li Chen's confession? Ning Shu asked. Li Chen confessed that he learned some knowledge about tampering with computers on the internet and stole Tian Hai's account. As for why he stole Tian Hai's account, it was because he had a small conflict with Tian Hai and they didn't like each other. Ning Shu, fuck, I don't want to talk at all. Could it be that she had wronged Ching Fei? So, this matter is settled? Ning Shu asked, is my husband okay? When the procedures are out, the case will be settled. Cheng Fei will be fine, the police said. Ning Shu almost forced a smile, and his eyes were filled with tears. He said happily, "That's good." After leaving the police station, Ning Shu pulled out a handful of her hair. Could it be that he had really wronged Cheng Fei? Did the client really have a persecutory delusion and a mental disorder? So far, Cheng Fei had only done one thing wrong, which was to install a camera at home and implant a locator in her body. And the reason for these things was very good. It was because Ai Yun had a mental disorder and he was worried that something would happen to Ai Yun. He thought that he had to be busy in the clinic during the day, so he could only install a camera so that he could know if Ai Yun was in danger at home. The locator was installed because he was worried that Ai Yun would get lost. He could know Ai Yun's whereabouts at any time. He didn't want Ai Yun to work or attend any banquets because he was worried that something would happen to Ai Yun. He didn't want Ai Yun to face the strange eyes of others. Everything made sense. There were no loopholes in the logic. Apart from this incident, Cheng Fei had not done anything out of line. He had not cheated on Ai Yun, nor had he abused her. He had not forced Ai Yun to do anything she did not like. Instead, he treated Ai Yun really well. Ning Shu wiped her tears. She was touched. This was really a good man. Was lying a weakness? Cheng Fei was trying to hide his life story. He had stayed abroad before and insisted that he had grown up in China. His adoptive parents were already dead, but they had come back to life. It popped up during the wedding. Ning Shu returned to school and took the bus to the cafe. Along the way, Ning Shu counted 7 stations, which were not far from each other. If he were to take a taxi, it would cost nearly 100 yuan. Moreover, after getting off the car, they still had to walk for a while to reach the coffee shop. Li Chen actually walked such a long distance to come here. There were many shops around the school, and there were also places that provided free Wi-Fi. Similarly, one could use a virtual IP address. Moreover, there was a library in the school. There was a lot of traffic in the library, so it wouldn't arouse suspicion. Why did he have to run so far? It did not conform to the cost economics of crime. Did he come here to look for someone? Ning Shu looked in the direction of Cheng Fei's clinic. Damn! He suspected Cheng Fei again. Ning Shu felt the client had a lot of influence on him. She was really trying to prove what Cheng Fei wanted to do to her. But why did Li Chen walk so far just to come to this coffee shop? He had suspected Cheng Fei, but now, it was proven that Cheng Fei was fine. Ning Shu suspected that the IP address was purposely left behind and exposed. Maybe Cheng Fei had purposely left it behind to let people find out about him. Then, he could clear his name. Ning Shu, could it be that she really had persecutory delusions? Damn! There are always unruly people who want to hurt me. Ning Shu stood at the entrance of the coffee shop. It was a quiet and secluded environment. Ning Shu pushed the door open and ordered a cup of coffee before calling the police. Did you ask Li Chen why he wanted to go to the coffee shop? That coffee shop is 7 bus stops away from school. It's quite far. Did he go there just to get some Wi-Fi and have a cup of coffee? Is it possible that Li Chen went to look for someone? Did the cafe's surveillance camera capture Li Chen with someone? There is only Li Chen in the CCTV. We will investigate this thoroughly. Ning Shu immediately said, I will have to trouble you with this. I am still worried about this. This concerns my parents' safety, so I don't dare to be careless. Ning Shu hung up the phone and looked at the coffee shop. He saw the CCTV. Li Chen was not there to meet anyone. He just traveled so far and came to this coffee shop to get some Wi-Fi. Why did he have to travel so far when he could get the materials here? Anyway, Ning Shu caught on to this point and suspected Cheng Fei again. Ning Shu drank his coffee and went home. When he opened the door, he saw Cheng Fei sitting on the sofa in the living room. He was smiling and talking to AI Meixia's mother. AI Meixia's mother saw Ning Shu and Ning Shu waved. "You're back." Cheng Fei turned around. When he saw Ning Shu, his eyes were full of smiles. Ning Shu leaned against the wall and changed his shoes at the entrance. He walked into the house and asked Cheng Fei, "Are you feeling better?" Ning Shu wouldn't yell in front of Cheng Fei. It was useless to say anything before there was evidence. Making a scene was useless, and it would only make things worse. That was why Ning Shu was indifferent to Cheng Fei. It made people feel that it was because of the CCTV incident. Cheng Fei nodded. "I'm much better. You have lost weight recently." Ning Shu looked at Cheng Fei. "You have lost weight too. You two chat. I will go and cut some fruits." "Cheng Fei, are you eating here tonight?" AI Meixia's mother stood up and asked Cheng Fei. Cheng Fei nodded. "Thank you, Mom." AI Meixia's mother couldn't stop smiling and went to cut some fruits. Ning Shu sat opposite Cheng Fei and said, "The case of Mum's kidnapping is about to be closed. It was done by a student of the same grade. He is also Dad's student." Cheng Fei was stunned for a moment and said, "Then Dad will be sad." Ning Shu had been observing Cheng Fei's expression. It didn't look like he was faking it. Cheng Fei was so elegant and refined. Ning Shu wanted to punch the ground. There were two people in his mind. One said that Cheng Fei was innocent and that the person who hired him had wronged him. The other said fiercely that it was Cheng Fei. Don't ask why. It was intuition. It was a scary intuition. These two people gave Ning Shu a headache. He really wanted to grab Cheng Fei's collar and throw him to the ground. You can use QQ readers to read this. Please support the original version. Even if it's for free, please vote for the original version. These words that you are looking at are the result of my hard work. I typed them out one by one. Everything that doesn't cost money is pirated. I hope that the pirated website will be infertile and have many children and grandchildren. Chapter 1350. Ning Shu felt that Cheng Fei was the murderer, whether it was because of her preconceived notions. The client, AI Yun, still felt that her husband killed her. But Ning Shu could not prove it. Cheng Fei was the murderer. The brake line and the handkerchief could not prove it. She thought that this kidnapping case would make the police suspect Cheng Fei and prove Cheng Fei's innocence. Ning Shu looked at Cheng Fei who was sitting opposite him. Cheng Fei's face was pale. He looked like a beautiful man who was looking up at the sky. AI Yun, why are you looking at me like this? Are you not going to divorce me because I am handsome? Cheng Fei asked, I don't understand. If I take you out, I can make you proud in front of your best friends and give you a stable life. Why do you have to divorce me? What's wrong with me? Ning Shu spread his hands and said, You are very good. Cheng Fei, let's go on a trip. If we can still be together after the trip, let's not divorce. How about that? Ning Shu said. If two people who loved each other went on a trip and still loved each other after the trip, they would get married. Because there would be all kinds of unexpected events on the trip. It tested one's ability and character. Ning Shu decided to take the initiative. It was not good to be passive all the time. Cheng Fei's eyes lit up and he said immediately, Okay. Where are we going? When are we going? I need to arrange the clinic and then I can go on a trip with you. Are we going to drive ourselves or go with a group? Cheng Fei was excited. Ning Shu said, Do you think it's better to drive ourselves or go with a group? Drive ourselves. I will arrange it. Don't worry. Cheng Fei said with a smile, Where do you want to go? Where do you think is good? Ning Shu asked. Cheng Fei kept smiling and looked very happy. He said, Shall we go hiking or diving? AI Yun, which one do you like? What is climbing? It should be normal climbing. Rock climbing. Ning Shu was speechless. Diving? Where are we going to dive? We can go to the beach. Damn, it was really dangerous. Ning Shu had never dared to seek death. Climbing and diving, the degree of danger was too high. Ning Shu cherished his life very much. He could forget about seeking excitement and adrenaline. Peaceful days were precious to Ning Shu. Cheng Fei saw that Ning Shu was silent, so he thought for a while and said, "How about we go to the desert?" Ning Shu was speechless. Why couldn't they just go on a normal trip and enjoy the scenery? If he went to the desert, he might be buried in the desert. They didn't even have a sip of water to drink. There was also a sandstorm, and the surroundings were filled with yellow sand. Just looking at it made one feel despair. How could they talk about relaxing? Cheng Fei's taste was really heavy. Couldn't it be more romantic? Ning Shu shrugged. Which place do you like? How about the desert? Even if something happens, our corpses won't rot. Instead, they'll be dried by the wind and sand and become mummies. Mummies made by nature. Ning Shu was speechless. Anyway, the feeling that Cheng Fei gave Ning Shu now was that he was both cute and cruel. The little white rabbit was so white. After cutting the arteries and veins, he didn't move at all. He was so cute. You don't like it? Then what do you like? Cheng Fei asked. No matter where you go, I'll go with you. Ning Shu leaned back on the sofa and tried to get as far away from Cheng Fei as possible. He said, "Why don't we go and find your parents? We've been married for so long and haven't gone abroad to look for them. We haven't seen them for a long time. Why don't we take this opportunity to visit them?" Ning Shu looked at Cheng Fei's expression as he spoke. Cheng Fei's expression was very natural. He asked, "Do you miss Mom and Dad?" "Of course. After all, I'm the daughter-in-law. I have to visit them. This time, let's go abroad to visit your parents. What do you think about my in-laws?" Ning Shu asked. Cheng Fei nodded. "Okay, I'll call them and ask where they are now." Ning Shu smiled and nodded. Was he going to call a ghost? Was he going to get a pair of fake parents again? Why did Cheng Fei hide the fact that his adoptive parents had passed away? Then it's settled, Ning Shu said calmly. When Mrs. AI saw Ning Shu and Cheng Fei talking, she felt that after so many things had happened, something good had finally happened. During dinner, Cheng Fei told Mrs. AI and Mrs. AI about going on a trip. Mrs. AI agreed without thinking. It's good to go out and relax. So many things have happened recently. Professor AI didn't say anything. He just looked at Ning Shu with some confusion. After dinner, they found a chance to be alone. Ning Shu asked, "Didn't you suspect Cheng Fei? Why did you give him a chance to be alone with you? It's easy to get into trouble on a trip. Have you thought about it?" Professor AI was a little worried. Why do you want to go on a trip at this time? Between his daughter and his son-in-law, Professor AI would of course choose his daughter. It was impossible to say that Professor AI didn't have any doubts about Cheng Fei. Even if Li Chen had appeared in the end and closed the case, it would not have mattered. But Cheng Fei had implanted a tracking device in his daughter's body. This was something he couldn't understand. It was said that AI Yun had a mental disorder, but his daughter looked very normal. Therefore, Professor AI didn't approve of Cheng Fei and Ning Shu going on a trip in this troubled period. Ning Shu just said, "It's not necessarily a trip. We're just going abroad to visit Cheng Fei's parents. We didn't even speak a few words to each other when we got married last time. It's been almost 2 years and they haven't called me. I just want to see if something happened. How can they not contact each other for so long?" Professor AI still didn't agree. This isn't good. Don't go out for a while. Also, the school matter isn't over yet. Ning Su comforted Professor AI. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Dad, AI Yun. Ching Fei came to the balcony and said to the two of them, Mom asked me to call you to eat fruit. Professor AI nodded and went into the house. Ning Shu and Ching Fei were the only two people on the balcony. Ching Fei asked, Dad doesn't look good. What happened? Ning Shu leaned on the balcony and looked at the night view of the city. He said, Dad doesn't agree with us going to visit your parents. He said that we have to find a day when things are less busy. Dad said that he wants to visit your parents with us. Ching Fei laughed. Dad is too polite. We're family. Why are you being so polite? Tisk, tsk, tsk. Ning Shu admired such shameless people who could lie without batting an eyelid. And no one could tell that they were lying. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.